Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Monday night, December 6th, 2021. It's PRI week, ladies and gentlemen, and still, somehow, some way, we're bringing you the Drag Illustrated ride along.
I'm celebrating, man.
Yeah, dude,
we're crushing it. We're crushing it. PRI week.
Dude,
I'm loaded up.
Let's
got
do
everything loaded.
Let's do a little rundown of the Drag Illustrated domination of PRI week.
Let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, so shout out to the whole Drag Illustrated team. We just put out our 30 under 30 issue, the special issue. It hit mailboxes today, went live on the internet today. This is the biggest issue we put out every year, where we go through literally thousands, I think almost 7,000 individual nominations, and we whittle those nominations down to 30. Just 30 people under the age of 30 that we think are making a difference in the sport of drag racing. We highlighted each and every one of them in this most recent issue of Drag Illustrated Magazine. Mike Carpenter, Nate Van Wagenen, Josh Hatchett, the whole editorial team, Rick Belden, Caroline, Nancy, JT, Kyle, Dion, the whole crew crushed it. And can you believe it, man? I think a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, Mike, was that year in 2018, the year that I completely BS'd my way through the whole 30 under 30 speech, acting like the magazine was done?
Right.
Yeah.
And we weren't even close.
Yeah, we kind of run the gamut from having it there or, kind of in progress to just having not even started it. And we're talking about how the issues, who's in the issue, everything. So, I was over there like just drenched in sweat. Wes is so much better at just kind of flowing through those deals, and I'm over there going like, all right, what am I going to say if somebody asks me like, what's the cover look like, who's in this issue, whatever. But it definitely feels good to have it done. We've got thousands of bulk copies already at the convention center, so if you're attending, be sure to pick up an extra copy because this one goes fast.
It's going to be a barn burner of a week for our whole crew. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys Wednesday, kind of the first night of many nights in downtown Indianapolis. I want to remind you guys, if you haven't gotten your tickets for Drag Illustrated After Hours powered by Titan Racing Engines, do it right now. We're already sold out of VIP tables. We've sold a slew of tickets to this deal, something we're really proud of. I feel like the party has ratcheted it up a level in 2021. It's
for
kind
sure.
of a new life, very exciting.
It's definitely going to be an upscale experience this year.
Yes,
so definitely,
yes.
Hey, we know this is the first year of buying tickets, but it's going to be worth it because it's going to be a much more exclusive deal, much more upscale. You're going to have plenty of your favorite booze, plenty of servers serving you. Yeah. Unless you like some weird off the wall shit that they don't have, whatever.
We may not have that.
Yeah.
We don't have everything for everybody, but I do think we're going to have a fantastic time. Huge shout out to our friends, Eric, Chris, everybody at Titan Racing Engines out in Denver, North Carolina for coming on board with this party. We believe this is going to be something we do for many, many years to come. Very excited. As you guys all know, I want to tell you, it's exciting to have Lyle Barnett on tonight. It's even more exciting to have Corey Big Country Swanstrom join us. But the real star of the show tonight is all of you that join us to watch No Prep Kings Season 4, take in a night of drag racing. You guys really steal the show. So your comments, your contributions make all the difference. Click like, click share, click subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Help us spread the message of drag racing. No matter where you stand, I don't care if you're an old school nostalgia nitro guy, you're a hardcore bracket racer, you're a diehard pro mod guy. If you don't believe what's happening on Discovery Channel, whether it's Street Outlaws or their spinoff show, No Prep Kings, or if you don't think these shows are doing huge things for car culture, if you don't believe that they're doing something very positive for drag racing in general, you're mistaken, my friend. And that's why we're here tonight and every Monday night for the last several weeks to watch this show, enjoy it with all of y'all. We appreciate the conversation. As you likely know, if you're watching along with us, we're about 10 minutes into tonight's episode on Discovery Channel. We got Mike Murillo kind of holding court on the starting line of the world famous, the one and only, the home of the World Series of Pro Mod, Drag Illustrated's own World Series of Pro Mod.
This is a pretty good bit right here. Here comes Pat busting through the crowd.
Okay, let's watch this. And ladies and gentlemen, we've been waiting for this for a long time. I took a bunch of shit last week for not having him here to defend himself against Pat Musey. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Big Country Corey Swanstrom. Let's bring Corey to the house. Corey's comfortable in bed.
He's got to get up early to go to work, man.
Good night,
We're keeping
sweetheart.
him up.
Good night, sweetheart. I can't wait to see you tomorrow morning. But hey, let's watch the show for a minute here. Is this your first time? Are you watching, Corey?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is your first time seeing this.
Yep.
Okay, let's watch.
How do y'all got the wide screen? I got like the narrow screen. What's up with that?
You have to flip your phone sideways. But you might have
there
to.
You go.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Glasses.
Little Donald Trump.
Really, there we go.
I told you I'm old school, man.
So what's Justin laughing about right here?
This is Pat responding to
Dude, look at
Kai.
the crowd. Look at the
Kai
crowd.
protesting. Right? Was it Kai that protested? All right. Let's recap. Mike Murillo and Birdman got protested for testing within 200 miles of the facility. Then it came out that other teams, I guess maybe Pat included, had tested unbeknownst to this rule. And then now it's like out there, and now they're debating whether to protest them. I don't know how this actually goes down. And then I think Justin calls out Kai.
Thanks, Keith. We got you, big dog. And what's up, Van Abernathy? Van Abernathy in the house tonight.
Boom. Van the man.
I'm kind of watching this thing because I honestly I'd never seen it, so I know I heard about it.
It's okay. Let's listen.
I was watching it earlier. I was worried that Justin was going to have an aneurysm or something on the starting line. He's pretty heated.
Whoa. I love the crowd. I love the crowd.
It's an awesome track. He is fired.
Dude, he is
Corey
lit up.
Yeah. It got pretty heated up there from what I heard.
All right, hold on. I got to turn this up.
All right, commercial break.
So the last thing we heard was "Rich Bitch" from Murder Nova. And listen, I know that they're playing the game too. Corey, what do you make of being? Do you want me to call you Big Country or Corey? I'm gonna call you Big Country. Yeah. Big Country. I'm just gonna go ahead and lean into that. Yeah. Big Country. What do you think about? We were just talking about this a little bit in the green room before we went live. There's kind of this belief system that you guys just have a ton of money and that you're out here playing around. I mean, you just told us it's been a long day. You're worn out. You're laying down, trying to rest. I mean, how do you respond when you hear that rich bitch type of thing?
Well, I mean, that's just people that hate, you know. I can't really do nothing about that. Hey, I don't know what happened to my screen. Did I hit something? It's like,
no, you're good. Don't mess with your solo. You're good.
Yeah.
JT, bring it back. You're scaring him.
Y'all are messing me up.
It is scary. So, it is scary when you're not ready to go into the solo mode.
I don't need to see me. See, that's the difference. So if you look at all these shows, you're rarely going to see me because I'm not a guy that needs TV time. So there's a lot of them out there that jump out there that need TV time. And me personally, I really think it's just for the drivers. That's who should be there. That's who the fans are following. You know, us that are behind the scenes, we're just helping the cars run, do our thing, but we're not there for the TV. And the fans really are hooked up to their drivers, and that's what it's really for. But, you know, to each of his own, they can do what they want to do. But anyways, what was the question you asked me again now?
Just about being labeled as a big money guy.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, here's the thing, man. I've worked hard all my whole life. I've come up dirt poor my whole life. I mean, I tell my boys the story all the time, how I lived in a single wide trailer. You know, we didn't have no AC, me and my sister. The only AC unit was at one end of the house, and it was a window unit my mom and dad had. Me and my sister, we used to have to open up the damn windows, and we'd get bit up by mosquitoes at night. We had to hide under the covers and shit. But, you know, I've been poor my whole life. You know, I ain't rich, but I get up and get off my ass and go to work every damn day to make sure I ain't broke either. So just because I've hustled, and I learned a trade that can make a living out of it. You know, people hate on me, and they even hate on my two sons. You know, have my two sons come up easier in life than I did? Sure they did, just because I love them, man. I tried to give them, you know, what I didn't get as a kid. what my wife didn't get. She didn't come up rich either. You know, we both work our ass off. My wife right now, it's 8:15 at night. She is at the office right now still doing paperwork. And that's what she's done. You know, we were at a race this weekend. She only came down Saturday. She was at the office all weekend, all day. I think she came down Saturday. So she was, you know, there late Friday night. She was there all day Sunday, you know, because we got to hustle. We're going to get on a plane Wednesday and go to that PRI. We've never been there. So she's just jammed up with work, man. We just work constantly. And, you know, we get people to hate on us for it. You know, I mean, I don't know why people do what they do, but, you know, the problem with this whole generation and life in general, it's too hard to talk good about somebody rather than to talk bad about them. It's so easy to talk bad about somebody, and that's what people just want to do, man. So you really can't focus on that. You can't study on it. You know, Justin gets hated on all the time, and, you know, really the guy does good, man. I mean, I can't knock him. You know, I've told a few people, but I don't pay for nothing for his race operation. When I say I don't pay for nothing, I don't pay for nothing. Now, the only contribution that I give to him for his race program, and I told him when he wanted to go to this MBK, because honestly, I was against it. I did not want to go do any of that racing. I really didn't. It just, and I don't know why, because I've drag raced my whole life. I felt like it was away from the core of what I was brought up on drag racing. I thought it was, honestly, I thought it was mocking drag racing. That's why they tried to get Justin to come over there in 2018, and I was against it. And to be honest with you, all I did was hurt Justin. All I did was hold him back, and that's the truth. He could be even bigger and better had I not been stubborn and bullheaded. It's even like this year, you know, he stopped working for my company about 6 months ago, and he just told me that he felt like he was being held back, that he could do much better. And, you know, as much as I wanted him to stay working for us, because Justin's worked for us, I can tell you, there's a lot of people that don't know about Justin, but, you know, yeah, he clowns around and he jokes. He wants to have a good time, but there's a serious side of Justin too. There, when he graduated from high school, he graduated on I want to say he graduated on a Wednesday, because I think Tyler graduated on a Thursday. Neither one of them went to, you know how, you know, kids have a go have a graduation party?
Yep.
Neither one of my sons had that. That was not an option, because I'm going to tell you, the next morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, they went to work. They both chose not to go to college. Justin actually had, you know, he had some colleges seeking him out for a scholarship for football. Justin's a very good football player. He's been a quarterback since he was 4 years old, 5 years old, playing PAL League football. You know, his mama and me, we supported him all we could through high school, through middle school. He was always starting quarterback, you know, and we had a long conversation one night because, you know, he had colleges seeking out him, wanting him to go to college, and he had scholarships. And I just told him, I said, and I was honest with him, and I've always been honest with both my boys, and I tell them the truth, whether they like it or not. They know they will always get the truth from me no matter what. And I told him, I said, I'm going to be honest with you. If you're going to that school and you're not going to apply yourself to try and be a doctor or a lawyer, you're going to come from there 5 years from now, and you're going to start at the bottom, and you're going to have nothing. I said, because there's 500 kids out there that wants that same spot that you want. And I don't think you're willing to put into work to get there. Justin had a lot of talent, but he also was lazy at the same time. And that hurt him, you know? So he ended up not going to college because of that. And he decided to go to work. So having said that, he graduated on a Wednesday night. I remember we went to the graduation party, or went to the graduation ceremony. And on Thursday morning, he went to work. And Tyler, he graduated on a Thursday and he went to work on Friday. And that's one thing I can say about both my sons is I never have to worry about them getting up to go to work. If they get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, work 6-7 days a week, whatever it takes, they do it. You know, there are a lot of people on the internet beat on Justin and say, daddy's money, rich guy. They don't realize the hours that kid has put in. They don't realize that on Sundays when me and both my boys are out there trying to finish a job, I can count on both my sons, no matter what. For a fact, I can count on my family. If something's got to be done, we go get it and we get it done. And I don't have to holler and scream to go do it. It was just this Thanksgiving weekend, just this past, I think it was 2 weekends ago or whatever, that thing we were off. We were all shut down. We had a job didn't get finished on Wednesday. Tyler actually asked the guys, we have, I think, 14 people that work for us. Nobody wanted to come in Friday. Tyler, my youngest son, he didn't say nothing to me. I went outside. I was working about middle through the day. I was wondering where Tyler was at. Well, he was gone at the job working. He went to the job by himself, did not tell me, didn't tell nobody to go finish a job. That's what I can say about both my sons. I don't got to tell them to go do what they need to get done because they know what needs to get done. And that's the difference in how they're raised. You know, people think that like Justin, he's rich, he's this, he's that. He's not rich. He's just grinding. And people are mad at his hustle. When he's up all day long, there's times I need help at work. He'll work all day with me and he'll be up all night editing films, doing videos, whatever it is that he does to make his living. And people are just mad about that. And it's mostly grown people. That's the sad part about it. It's grown.
I hate to say it, but you're right. We talk about this a lot, that and we don't mean to be fanboys, but anybody who's hating on what's going on with the No Prep Kings, Street Outlaws, these guys, they're jealous, right? I mean, let's be honest. There's
and with
a
Justin,
whole lot of people.
And with Justin,
Justin told us he was earning a living.
Yeah, it's Justin using his platform.
Drag racing, earning a living.
We've had Justin on a couple times, and we've talked to him. We've all known you guys since before the show started. It's using. He knew there was an opportunity here. He got his foot in the door, and he's capitalizing on that opportunity. I think he works as hard as anybody outside of the confines of the show to promote his brand and to try to use his platform. I don't think the majority of these guys use it well enough. I think he's kind of setting the playbook, in my opinion, not to kiss ass or anything, but he's, like you said, come in kind of late to the game on an MPK deal. Just this is his first year on this show, and he's taking it and run with it.
Absolutely. And you know, the bad thing about it is there's a lot of dudes out there that hate on him for that. And you know, the good thing about Justin's calm, cool, and collected. You know, I've said it before, you know, Justin's not a hothead, man. He lets a lot of shit slide. I mean, but there is times that if you pin him in a corner, he's going to come out of that corner. That's just who he is. My youngest son, not so much. My youngest son, he's a fighter. He just soon fight. He don't want to talk about nothing. He just soon fight. And that's a bad quality. I don't even really like that quality in my son, but he gets that from me. He doesn't want to try and reason or think through things, you know, and we talk about that. We work through that. But Justin himself, man, I'm telling you right now, and I think that because you really can't get underneath Justin's skin. And that's also what makes him a very good driver. I'm going to be honest with you. We have grudge raced for some large amounts of money. And we grudge race out of our own pocket, me and Justin. When we win those pots, we have a certain amount of pot. We keep it to the side. And we grudge race for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And we grudge race, I'm talking about for some large pots. And I'll be honest with you, I've drag raced my whole life. I had a pro mod. Me and Donald Long had a pro mod together. The amount of money that Justin has grudge raced for, I would not want to be in the cockpit of that car. I would not be the guy that want to have to make that happen. But when I tell you he's as cold as ice in that car, you cannot rattle him. It does not matter who he's racing. I've even seen him be sitting there in the line with one of the best, Stevie Jackson. He's even beat Stevie Jackson in a grudge race up in Michigan. I've seen him tree Stevie Jackson, and Stevie's as good as anybody is out there. But you're not going to get underneath Justin's skin. You're not going to rattle him. It doesn't matter. He goes in there and he does his job, and that's what makes him a good driver. He's got one job to do when he goes in there. No matter what is going to happen when he lets go of the button, he's got one job, and that's to focus on that tree. After he lets go of that button, he's on his second job, and that's to get the car to the end. And that's the good thing about Justin. I always say he's my driver. People says, well, if he loses weight, you know, and that's just the dumb shit that people say. They don't know that a car's got to make a certain weight. It doesn't matter what his weight is. The car has to make a certain weight to run in a certain field. But one thing about it, you know, we were just at, I think, Orlando, and, you know, I think I told you, Wes, you know, he unloaded off the chart and went 038. He went 038, 018, 005, 002. And then he went 011 against Marcus Burt. And I put 10 in the box because he was getting closer and closer to that tree. And that's how me and him's always race. I tell him I want him to try and go red. I want him to see light, and I want him to try and go red. I will hold you back. Do not. You keep crushing it. So I ended up putting 10 in the box against Marcus Burt. And had I not, you know, because he went 011, he would have went 001. And I can promise you, if you grudge racing somebody and you got $60,000, $70,000 on the line, you don't want to go 001. You don't want to go 002. You don't want to go 005. If you're that close to the tree, you're 5/1000ths of a second away from giving all your money away.
Yeah.
I gotta go. I gotta go 015, 020. You know, the thing is,
sorry,
go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, what do you think of one of the things that we've found, I mean, I think we've got a lot of feedback about, was you guys going and turning the scoreboards on this past weekend. Lyle, you were down there, and ladies and gentlemen, for those that are just joining us, we got Lyle Barnett in the house, fresh off a hell of a weekend down in Bradenton Motorsports Park. Hell of a weekend down there for the Elite Motorsports Modern Racing Pro Mod Mustang. Who knows what car we're going to see you in at this point in time.
I know, right?
A black Camaro, a red Camaro, a red Mustang, beer money, you never know. But I got to tell you, man, I think you turned some heads. I mean, Lyle, were you surprised when you saw that Lexus click off a 375 at 200?
No, I mean, those Corey and our Big Country and Justin and that whole crew, and I say no, not because, not in any disrespect. I say that because I know what kind of equipment they have. I worked on that car. It was in our shop for several weeks. I know what power plant it's got, you know, I know what it's capable of, and I know what they are capable of. And I knew if they got on a good racetrack and got a few licks at it, that it would get there. You know, I mean, they would have qualified and been a mid-60 player if they had a chassis that could go that fast. But that car's not set up to do that. You know, they don't have enough passes on it to get there. But when it went, I mean, 73 is a good lick, I think. Corey, you may think that it's got plenty left in the bank, but I thought 73 was a pretty good lick out of that thing, with no more passage than you have on a surface like that. But I mean, it didn't surprise me.
I thought it was impressive, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was like, in my opinion, that's about as quick as these cars are going within a few hundreds.
Well, I mean, my point was like, I was proud. I was happy for the Street Outlaws contingent, because I think it was good for the No Prep Kings series and everybody involved to have Justin go out and run like that. You know, obviously, you know, hey, huge shout out to Melanie Salemi taking out Ken Cartuccio in the final. It was a hell of a drag race. She was one of my picks. Roll the tape back. Ken Cartuccio was my pick, and I was proud to see him in the final. But I will say that we will be talking a lot about the Snowbird Nationals on Wednesday, the Wes Buck show, Thursday. This week for the first time. Pretty exciting. We're going to be broadcasting the show live from the PRI show floor. We will check in Wednesday afternoon and remind everybody that we'll be going live Thursday. We'll have Lyle in the house Thursday morning on the PRI main stage. We're going to have Antron Brown, Justin Ashley, Clay Milliken, Ryan Martin. We're going to have a hell of a show, a barn burner, no doubt about it. Drink, yeah. Boom. But I want to remind everybody to tune in Thursday afternoon. If you're in Indianapolis, come see us on the trade show floor. But I got to say, I think it was not important, but it was cool to see how fast y'all went, Corey, because, man, that was a big moment. I mean, that was a hell of a run. And for the whole world to know what these cars are capable of, low 370s, really?
Corey, were you happy with that? 30 seconds of
Wes's
rant is that you nor I were picked to win that thing. So
I picked you.
Remember that.
JT picked y'all.
Yeah, I picked.
We didn't know. In all fairness, we didn't know you're bringing the Pro
Charger car out. Now,
we didn't know you were bringing the Pro Charger.
Go ahead and talk about it. Just know we didn't get picked.
You know, Sorry, Lyle. Here's the deal. We went to the World Street Nationals. You know, and here's the thing, man. If we qualified with all those pro mods and all those, listen, we're just some old ditch diggers, and that's really the truth about it. I mean, dude, you know, we ran this whole MBK. We were flying home, working, flying back. I mean, we didn't have an opportunity to go test in between rounds. We didn't have no professional tuners. We didn't have no professional chassis guys to keep changing the setup on the car to get down these racetracks because, you know, we changed a 4-link probably, man, I probably changed the 4-link setting at least, probably without exaggerating, at least 8 times through this series because the tracks were so much different. And that's the good thing about a 4-link. If you really understand it, there's so much you can do with it. We changed different tire pressure. We changed different wheelie bar. We changed different gear. We changed different converter. There's so much we had to change just to finish third in the points to keep hustling and we had to make them on the fly. If something wasn't working, we had to do what we had to do because we didn't have time to go test. We just didn't have it. I mean, we got to go home and make a living. So, you know, when we finished the season, we felt like Justin, we didn't know what the car ran, and we didn't. Everybody kept saying, how fast the car. Well, we didn't know how fast the car was. Everybody's got those draggy things or whatever that shit is they put in the fucking car, and they're so inaccurate. I told Scott Taylor, nothing against Scott, I love him to death, but he's always one telling us how fast his car's going. Well, we would race him and outrun him. Finally, one day I told him, I said, listen, man, whatever that is in your car that's telling you that, give it to me. I said, I'm going to take a fucking hammer and I'm going to smash it to pieces and throw it across the fence. I said, because that thing is leading you with false hope, man, and you're not putting in the work. I mean, at the end of the day, we never knew how fast anybody is. We just were trying to run as fast as we could possibly get on that surface that it was going to give us. It didn't matter who was in the other lane. It didn't matter whether it was Pat Busey, Ryan, Scott, whoever. We had to go as fast as we could down that lane. We raced our lane every time. And I think that's why we're successful. The first half of the year, man, we had anything and everything fall off that car. From the blowers to the doors to the center cross member breaking to struts failing, you name it, we had it. But the second half of the season, stuff stopped falling off the car, and we just kept grinding. We never gave up. And I'll be honest with you, I'll give that to Justin. Justin pushed. He pushed and he pushed and he pushed. He put a good group of guys around him. And, if he was willing to get out there and go, then I was going to support him. Although, I'll be honest with you, I was tired. I was wore down. I was absolutely ready to quit. But, man, when your kid's still pushing, no way could I lay down. I mean, that's just reality.
It's crazy to hear how much adjustment you guys do to the cars. I think that's something that's taken for granted.
Well, I think it's exciting, man.
Because you said you changed his 4-link 8 times. That's 7 more times than we ever changed the 4-link in my dad's car in his entire career. We had like one setting, you know what I mean?
So, here's the thing, too. The tire pressures really change a lot. The wheelie bars really change a lot. From if the track's good on the start line or if it's bad in the middle, you really have to be able to adapt and overcome. And so when we went to Orlando Street Nationals, Justin wanted to go to it. Obviously, we can't run with Pro Mods. Here's what people don't understand. Pro Mod weight was 26.25. We just finished here the other night at 28.20. So we were basically almost 200 pounds over our Pro Mod weight. So we went at 373 at like 203 and change. When we were at Orlando, the fastest we went was a 381. And I was struggling. I mean, I made a 4-link change again there because it's completely different from no prep. So the car was very unhappy when I got to Orlando. I mean, we tried 2 attempts. The thing didn't even go 15 feet. It was just completely pissed off. So I had to make a 4-link change. I had to make a wheelie bar change. I had to make a tire change. I had to make an adjustment to get it to go. And also I had to make a serious tune-up change. So we finally got it to go, and we accomplished the 381 over there. Now, when we went to go race Marcus, I'm one of them guys too. If you'll see me out on the starting line, I'm always looking. I'm not there to play grab ass with anybody. I'm not there to play buddies. I'm not there to say, hey, who's this? I could give 2 fucks who's out there. There's some of the best tuners that are out there. There's some of the best racers out there. But if I come to that starting line, I'm looking for something. You best believe that. I'm watching.
Big Country don't play grab ass. That's another T-shirt.
Right. I don't have time for all that. And at the end of the day, I don't care if anybody, whatever it is, I'm there to race and to do the best I can. Because at the end of the day, we kind of do things on our own, and we always have. And everybody says, well, why don't you hire a tuner? Or why don't you do? Well, because I'll tell you why. If me and my son wants to go race, we fire that fucking rig up and we go. We ain't got to call nobody. I ain't got to reserve a hotel. I ain't got to have nobody fly in. I don't need a driver. Even if I can't get our guys that are completely volunteer to go with us, we'll go race that car ourselves. And we've done it many a time. That's one thing in the Grudge world. They had to be very careful about locking in a race with us because we didn't have to call nobody. If we locked a race in and said, we'll be there next Friday night, you can take it to the bank. I'm going to tell you right now, we will be there. If I tell you it's Easter, you better grab a basket and go hunt some eggs because we're going Easter egg hunting. I promise you that.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, man. We have blowed up a lot of shit and we've tore up a lot of shit. But at the end of the day, We've always been able to do it on our own. And it's not about anything being gratified or being over on ourselves. It's just that if we want to go race, we don't never want to be held down. We don't want to be held back by anything. And if we go out there and we suck and we're like shit, then so be it, because nobody's paying our tab except for ourselves. So
speaking of that investment, real quick though,
go ahead.
Watching this unfold on Vandermeer Speedway, like watching this unfold on Discovery Channel right now, talking about, and I've seen you guys, like I remember whenever you raced J.R. Gray at Valdosta against the black car against Headhunter. You guys were racing for money, but you're also racing for the cover of the magazine. We were going to put Justin on the cover. We were going to put J.R. Gray on the cover. You guys ended up winning. We put Justin on the cover of the magazine. It was a super cool deal. Considering everything you just said, Big Country, the fact that you guys do this on your own, you guys have built a business that have afforded you the opportunity to go race like this. Was there at all a pinch me moment being on the starting line of Vandermeer Speedway, Thunder Mountain? I mean, this is one of the most celebrated drag strips in America. Everybody that knows about drag racing knows about Vandermeer Speedway. I mean, looking at that crowd and all those people up there, I mean, are you able to take a minute and be proud of yourself and your son and what you guys have accomplished as a family in drag racing?
Absolutely. I mean, we were very fortunate to be a part of that. One thing I kind of skipped over, and I saw you. What race did I see you at, Wes? Which one did you go to?
Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah, Texas at the Motorplex.
So you remember when I told you, I said, man, what do you think about this race? How do you think it's run? How is it organized? And I kind of told you my feelings about NPK, and I was honest with you. I told you from the start, I wasn't all about it, and I wasn't. But having had gone to one now and actually been in one, of how well they're ran and how well they are organized, that it was probably some of the very best drag racing I've ever done in my life. And that's a fact. And I've raced all over. I've raced at many tracks, many surfaces, many different, if anybody knows Justin, one day he's on a 28 friggin' stiff sidewall. The next day he's on a 315. The next day he's on a 36-inch slick. The next day he's on a 275. So that dude is like all over the place. He's all over the friggin' map all the time. And he kills me with that shit, because as soon as we get good at something, he wants to flip the script. Every time. And honestly, he wears me out with that. But what I will tell you, though, it has made us as a team and as a group, it has more well-rounded us. And it's not what I would have chose to do, but it did. And even in the MPK, because we raced so hard, it made us better. Going back to Orlando, we went to 81. At the end, what I was telling you, I'm always watching. So we were struggling with a bead lock. And I was watching everything out there. And come Sunday morning race time, I told Justin, I said, you know what? I said, I think we are the only idiots out here with a beadlock tire on a boosted car. I said, I haven't seen one boosted car on this property with a beadlock tire. I said, they all got liners on them. I said, there's something going on. I'm telling you right now. I said, run down through these pits and find me a liner tire. We're putting a liner tire on this car. And we did. And it slowed us down because we didn't know how to run it. But that was our goal going to Orlando. We needed to figure something out. And we did. We learned something in Orlando, and we're going to take that. There's places to use that. There's places to not use that. The tune-up is different, but we will use what we learn in no prep, because we do believe there's tracks to where that liner tire will favor our combo. Between the gear change we made, the converter change, and the liner change, we picked up almost a tenth, and we went 203 mile an hour. And that's just doing our homework. That's all that was. Could we run with those guys? No, we can't run with them. We're 200 pounds overweight. The engine is 2 inches too high. The car is not a 114-inch wheelbase car. The car doesn't have the right weight on the rear axle. There's a lot of things that held us back. Had we been sitting in a Pro Mod car, I believe we could have run a low 63, 64, no problem. I honestly believe we could have run that. but the car that we were running, it's just not capable of running that. And it ran a good number, and we were happy with it. I believe I could have won a 71 if we could have got another crack at it, but that's about it, man. We was pissing the tire off. Justin was driving his ass off down through there, but we're happy. Justin wanted to go at 70.
That's the difference maker between your guys' program and like some of the other top tier cars, Ryan Martin, some of the other guys competing for a championship, Kai Kelly, is that making 4-link changes? Because that's
absolutely
making those type of changes, because I don't know that everybody's doing that. I mean, it seems like a lot of these cars in this day and age leave the chassis shop, leave the setup shop, and it's keyboard manipulation only.
Yes,
we don't see guys making suspension changes.
If you're not willing to do that, I believe you're going to seriously struggle. If you see Pat out there, Robert Hayes is out there. Robert Hayes is there for a reason. That's a fact. Now, I mean, I don't know if Pat don't know what he's doing underneath that car, but I know Robert does. So when that thing don't go down track, Robert makes it happen. Simple as that. So yes, if you're not willing, and I know even Ryan and them struggle sometimes, and you got Steve Petty, which let me tell you something. Steve Petty, he's the best of the best. I don't care what anybody says. There's in my opinion, there's a few tuners out there that I say are amongst the very, very best. And I'm going to tell you, Steve Petty's one of them. Billy Stockland's another one. I would even put, a lot of people don't really know about Dean Marinas, but I'm going to tell you, Dean Marinas is probably one of the very, very best nitrous tuners in the country. I know because I've raced beside him. He's smart. He may not get put over the top when a lot of people use him, but let me tell you something. I'm a guy, I watch, I observe, I absorb, I see what's going on. And, those guys are the best of the best. So those guys can make those decisions. They can tell you what to do, when it needs to be done, and make a problem go away that quick because they're so very experienced. I'm going to tell you, listen here. This was one of I don't have a whole lot of proud moments about drag racing because I hate drag cars. I hate every race car that I've ever worked on. I had to run 3 cars this weekend. Justin's is one. I had a car out of Michigan, and I had a car from South Florida, and I hate all 3 of them. I don't like them because cars are too much work. That's why I don't like them. I'd rather be out in the woods somewhere, hunting, fishing, doing something that, other than them cars are too much work. And that's the truth about it. But I'll tell you, when you ask me what is some of my proudest moments, obviously Justin, when he wins a race, I mean, I expect him to win. I expect him to do his best. I expect our team to. He's won a lot of big races. He's won a lot of big money races. So yes, I'm very proud of that all the time. But when we went to 73 at 203, when every one of the top pro line guys come straight over to me, Josh come over to me, Brandon came over to me, Petty came over to me, and even Dillard came over to me. And they all said, that is very impressive for you to take that car and go 203 mile an hour, as heavy as that car is and the way that car is built. They said, we are blown away that you went that fast with that car. So to me, that was a really proud moment for me to know that we, as a team, we do our own thing. And to have those type of guys acknowledge, say, man, you guys did a hell of a job. That was a good moment. I'm not going to lie.
That is badass, man. Do you miss nitrous racing?
Man, I hate them all, Wes. I'm not going to lie. I hate them all.
I was going to say, no.
If they weren't so much work, man, all them cars are. Lyle will tell you, man, he's drag race for, man, them cars are a lot. People that are on the outside looking in thinks that shit's easy. They have no clue what these race teams, what the drivers, the feedback that they give back to the tuners, what the guys around the car, they have no clue how much work it is to run those cars at that caliber. You know what's funny? I see on the internet, and everybody says, we went to 78. We finally made our first rip. We rattled the tires twice. I told Justin, put the fucking weight in the car. I said, it needs weight. I'm telling you right now, it's pissed off. I can't get it to go. I can't help it that it's going to be overweight. Stop eating. I don't know what to tell you. Put weight in the car. So
cedar salad.
We did.
Cedar.
We threw 100 pounds in the back of it. It went right down the track. I said, put another 50 pounds. We went faster again. I said, put another 30 pounds. We went faster again because it wasn't pissed off. It could get the tire hooked up. But at the end of the day, I watch people on the internet and they say, okay, yeah, we're done playing now. Big Country, now he's going to turn it up. Man, I turned that bitch up every round. I mean, you can't, I was running the shit out of that thing. You know, it's like, you know, then you'll see him say, oh, he's fixing to go a 63 or 62. If they even knew what it took to run that 73, that's just, and listen, I'm not mad at them, but people on the outside that don't really do that have no clue what it takes to run like that. They just don't, man. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of commitment. And if you're not going to do it, you're not going to get it there. It's just that simple.
Lyle, you had, we talked a little bit over the weekend, not as much as I intended, but you guys had a hell of a weekend down there with a legal NHRA legal pro mod car. Can you relate to that or appreciate that? Like just being down there kind of thrown into the Shark Tank with a bunch of like outlaw cars, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, like
what it felt like to try to do battle with a legal car.
Like Corey was saying, the people he's talking about that say all Big Country is about to send Justin down through there 63 or 64. What they don't understand is 114-inch wheelbase and a 4-link. You might as well be saying pitchfork. You know, they don't understand those things or what it's capable of. You know, and every time Corey threw 50 pounds in the car, he ultimately would have slowed the car down. What it ultimately could have gone 3 or 4 numbers, even though it sped him up. It on the other side of it slowed him down. Right, you can't go but so fast carrying that much weight. But yeah, I mean, we took an NHRA legal engine. You know, we spun the blower like we used to spin it. For instance, the way we spun them in Gainesville, we had the weight out of it. We can get the weight. We ran at 25.75. We put our own rear gear in it, but we did run a legal engine. And you know, and the same thing when we went 65 at 205, you know, Petty and Dillard and all came over and were like, wow, you know, because we run the MH5. Corey and them have the MH6. It's the raised port deal, really a great engine, and is really the ticket if you're going to go 63 to 61. You know, and I had several people tell me, well, 65s, man, it's right there. But when you're talking about a field separated, 32 cars separated by a 10th, and majority of them with the ability to cut, you know, a 30 or better, you got to be able to go 61 to 63 to win. You know, now Melanie Salemi won going 65, but that's because nobody with the current track and air conditions at the time could go 61, you know, like it just wasn't there. But yeah, you know, we showed up and took a pretty good package, you know, and Corey talks about putting good people around. You know, I literally only drive. Like they don't let me pull the spark plug wires off. They don't let me touch the valve covers. I don't touch nothing but the steering wheel, you know, and Justin Elks, I think
that's my kind of deal right there.
Yeah, right.
They call me Hank Jackson comes up to me all the time. He's like, Lyle, your car's in the lanes when you're gonna go fly in. You know, they call me the flying driver. But Corey talked about surrounding yourself with a good team. You know, I think that Justin Elks belongs in that elite tuners group. You know, he knows
absolutely
the suspension, the 4-link, he knows a car from bumper to bumper, from floor pan to roof. He knows it as good as anybody out there. I'm not saying better.
Thank you for saying that, because Lyle, that's the point that I was trying to get to. Yeah. And I agree, Justin Elks deserves to be in that category. And the reason I bring it up, and I think we talked a little bit about it with Mike, I'm going to say his first name, you say his last. Adam
Drzajic.
I'm sure you butchered that.
I believe
no, it is. That's it.
Category as well. Yeah. One more time, Adam
Drzajic.
That helps on Pat Musey's program. I really think the difference right now, and this is the thing that I want to ask both of you guys, Lyle and Corey, Lyle and Big Country, excuse me, I made that decision earlier. I think car guys that actually know the car, I think we've seen it in NHRA Pro Mod. I think that's what, when you saw some of those pro stock teams start getting involved in Pro Mod, I think they brought car setup to the table. I really do. I think that it started maybe 10 years ago when Rear Morrison got involved with nitrous racing. They brought some pro stock approach to pro mod racing, and I think that has continued to happen into no prep. Corey, I'll throw it to you first. Like, do you agree that, I mean, I think it's unheard of to hear somebody like your team making 8 4-link changes this year, changing shocks, changing gear ratios. You don't hear that at high level door slammer racing.
Technology. Someone asked earlier, where was like 10, 20 years ago without technology, how was this happening, or how did this come about? It didn't. And that was the truth of it, is that it took 5-10 years to make these kind of incremental changes that happen throughout a season or in a half a season. And you would never see a field like we saw this weekend, that 32 cars, 4 power adders,
5
separated by
5.
5.
Separated by what was it?
A tenth
of a second. I mean, and you just didn't learn. I think more times than not, because of the lack of technology, you didn't make any full pulls. You lost so much track time and track data acquisition opportunities that it took so long to make these gains. And now these cars go down the track an astounding ratio. You know, I mean, compared to the
that
old
was
days.
what my biggest takeaway from Texas, big country. Whenever at the Motorplex, you were down here in my neck of the woods, up here, I guess, for you. The biggest takeaway I had, I couldn't believe how many cars made it down the track. Yeah, I thought going to the NPK, I thought I'd see like 10 cars make full pulls. They all make it. They all make the trip.
Having said that, though, the Texas track was one of the exceptional tracks. That track was very good. Now, early on, you seen them have a few problems, but once there was a few cars went down, after the first couple rounds, like after Friday night, Saturday, that track got good. Virginia was the same way. I don't know if, I'm not a track guy, so I'm going to probably say it's a different surface, how they adhere the rubber, and how they hold it. So, because we actually, obviously, we've never known how fast we went, but we were told that we were the fastest car in Texas. And we were told a number that I really didn't believe. I was told that we went 379 at 200 mile an hour in Texas.
Wow.
By word to word, whatever. I still didn't believe that we were that fast. I had no idea how fast we were until we got to Orlando. I had no clue. I mean, I just didn't. I didn't have no data. I didn't have nothing to compare. The only thing I had is when we first started testing that car, Steve Petty went out with us for 2 test sessions, and we went at 397 at 397 like 194 mile an hour. That's the fastest we'd ever been with that car.
You should get a draggy to put in the car.
Yeah, I hear you. So at the end of the day, though, I'll be honest with you, I was already pretty good with the 4-link, but after this season of no prep, I got really good with the 4-link. And going to Orlando, this is one thing you're going to see Justin at Little Country. I'm going to tell you, at Orlando, we had a fucking meltdown in the trailer. When I tell you we had a meltdown, I was ready to flip that whole goddamn racetrack upside down with Justin. And that's the thing, dude. We have those issues. We do. Me and him. I mean, we're a tight family, but man, we have it out, and sometimes we just got to get it out, and that's just how it is, man. I felt like the car needed a 4-link change the last race going into Bradenton. I had been feeling that way. I knew the car was doing something stupid around their 400 feet. I just knew it needed something different. And I had been thinking about stuff in my head. I set up, man, sometimes that shit eats at me, man. I'm like, it just kills me because I got to try something. The thing is, if you're only doing, there's so much ET in a race car. That's what a lot of people don't understand. It's not so much the tune up in the engine, the power plant. There is so much ET in a race car if you'll really look for it. You can pick up ET. You can even pick up speed just in the equipment alone that the race car has. So going into our last no prep race, we'd been fighting that car, and I felt like it was in the 4-link, and I really did. I felt like it was a weight percentage, and it was a 4-link to get that car happier. Well, we didn't make that switch. So I kind of feel like we got outran by Ryan the last round because we didn't do what I felt like we were supposed to do because I was fighting with my son about it. So then we rolled it. And I'm like that, man. I don't want to fight.
That's how it is with family.
Yes, I don't want to fight. And sometimes I just say, fuck it. It is what it is, man. I'm not going to argue about it. It's your deal, whatever. So going into Orlando, I felt like that car needed a 4-link change. It kept rattling. And so he did not want to make the 4-link change. And, me and him had a big blow up, and I kind of got pissed off, and I said, you know what, the problem I have with you right now, Justin, If Steve Petty was standing down here in this trailer and he told you to make the 4-link change, you'd jump right underneath that son of a bitch and make the change. But I feel like you don't have the confidence in me, and that's a problem for me. And it really is. I said, you got to focus on doing the driving. You focus on the motor maintenance. You focus where you got. But if you want me to be the crew chief of the car, let me do my job. If not, I don't need to be here. That's simple. We made a 4-link change on the car. Car went right down the track. Straight up.
Do you so for those like the hardcores of us, so are you putting just more bar in it?
Man, I can't tell you what we do. I'm not going to lie. It's just one of them things, man. I had a car come to me this weekend from Michigan, brand new car, all built. And it's a buddy of mine's car. They wanted me to give them, the chassis shop wanted me to give them my setup. And I wouldn't because I'm not being a dick. But listen,
no, you can't, man.
I have looked like a jackass enough over the years of racing. And I've had people poke and ha, he, he. But when I go out there and run good, those same people do that. You don't see them saying shit. They shut up. So when the car got here, it was all wrong. And it just was. In fact, we had to take it to another chassis shop, cut the rear main frame out of it. I mean, it was bad. Like, it just wasn't right. And it was a radial tire car. That car went out there and ran a stellar number, and we had all kinds of problems. I had Justin Elks helping me with it. We just had a lot of shit going on with the EFI, all kinds of stuff. And Justin wired the car, but he was on board. He was helping me. Man, it made its first rip down the track. I mean, that thing went one flat 60 foot. I mean, it just ripped right down, straight down Broadway. And that's just from years of looking like a dumbass, about half the time putting Justin into the wall, car going left, car going right. I mean, that's really what all that is that, we have a team have learned that to know what to do, to really just come straight off the trailer and be able to go down the track and make the car work. And I can't just tell everybody or tell, we've gotten to the point now we're very protective over it.
I would be too, and it's, I can see, you can see in the way some of these cars behave. They're like, clearly somebody's trying to be super aggressive, probably got too short a bar in it. The car's hard to drive. It's interesting to see. And when I hear people talking about making changes like that, I just find it interesting. I'm curious, and I want to dive into Denver here just a little bit. Can you take us through your Denver experience? I mean, we talked to a little bit with Pat last week, Pat Musey and Lizzie Musey, just racing at altitude. I know that was a new experience for you guys as well. What was, and I know you guys tore up a bunch of stuff and worked really hard. Was this one of those events that kind of made you question what you'd agreed to do?
Yeah. So, between all the travels, we were tired, but we went to, we come back from, I think, Virginia, and we tore the car up pretty good. And, that's me. That I get it. I take that, man. I fucked the car up. I blew the fucking whole intake off the top of that son of a bitch. I was trying shit. I was trying to find power. It is what it is. We run the lockup. I made the motor unhappy. It didn't like the tune up and it spit it out. I mean, I blew the scoops off the nitrous cars, but you know what? If you don't try that, and listen, we're the only ones that have to pay for that. Well, actually, this deal is a whole lot more funner for me because everything I fuck up, Justin has to pay for it. So I'm good with that. But that's the price he has to pay to run like he runs now. You got to find the breaking point. You got to find the do's and the don'ts. If you're just going to be safe, then you're going to be safe with a whole other field of cars. The ones that are going to step out there are the ones that are really laying it down. And at some point, you're going to tear some shit up doing that. That's just how it is. That's how you're going to learn. I tore some shit up there, and then we went to Idaho. I really wanted to make some changes, but we were so behind the gun, man. I'm going to tell you how the Idaho deal went down. And this is leading, I know you're talking about Colorado. This is leading up to Colorado. So we get back from Virginia, and we're dog-ass tired. I'm not kidding you. We drove all the way back to Virginia. We're tired as hell. And we went to work on Monday. And, my crazy-ass son sends me a text. And see, I'm just as bad. We work to race. That's what our family does. We work to race. We are so fucking ate up with this shit that it's not even funny. So we work all day long. And at 5 or 5:30, he sends me a text. He says, "Hey, man, I think we can make Idaho." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean, man? The car's all tore up. The motor's all blowed up. I mean, he's like, well, we can get the motor out. I just think we got time. 2 days, we can put this car back together. We can haul it. I said, well, so my reply to him is,
I remember watching this on social.
I'm like, okay. I said, well, y'all get the motor out tonight, get it on the stand. I'll do the motor tomorrow. Take the car to Cameron's shop tomorrow, get the car fixed. We'll put it in tomorrow night. I said, we'll leave Wednesday morning, head to Idaho. And we drove 43 hours straight to get to Idaho. Now, we got to Idaho. I didn't get to make the changes I wanted to make. So, I did bump the compression up on the engine, though. But we didn't get to make the other changes. We got put out first round. We go to Arizona. We actually made a gear change. We made a converter change. And we actually changed some of the ratio in the Liberty. Just stuff I was thinking outside the box, try and help this car because I knew we were going to run into bad air. And we actually tested in Arizona, and we were fast. We picked up almost a full 10th. Well, I say a full 10th because I got a ticket in Arizona when we tested. We ran into the 330, and I overlaid my wheel speeds, and the data was I was like 600 RPMs faster, which is about a 10th. So I knew we were pretty fast, but we still didn't have the air. We'd have to deal with it. We were down, 15, 16 pounds of boost in Idaho. We were down 18 pounds in Arizona. We were down 20 pounds in Colorado. But the changes that we made that car better. I think we went to the semifinals in Arizona, and we went to the semifinals in Colorado. So the changes we made, we did good. But on a blower car, or especially a Pro Charger car, there's only so much you can do. You're just a sitting duck out there. If you don't have boost, you don't have boost. There's just really nothing you could do. So the only thing you could do is work on your car, make your car the best you could, work on the converter, work on the gear ratio, just do anything you could to try and find any kind of ET because that's all you could do.
We just saw that on the show. You guys were running Brandon James. I think this is first round. They showed you and Justin talking about the altitude, making some adjustments. Looked like a pretty good pass there. You're pulling away from him.
Yeah. So we made some good licks, but we also knew that it was going to be a turbo car and a nitrous car deal up there. We knew that they were the ones. So for us, when we just went to the semifinals in Arizona, listen, we were so happy. We went to the semifinals in Colorado. I promise you, we were even that much more happy. I told the guys we would be lucky if we draw one of those nitrous cars or a turbo car that's got their shit together. We were going home. It is what it is. Nothing I can do for the car. It is what it is.
You thought a nitrous car would be the problem?
Yeah, nitrous cars, typically struggle on the mountain.
No, them cars do well up there. So the thing is, though,
struggle with parts attrition.
We ran our nitrous car up there the last season. And, the thing is, if you just understand how the DA is, nitrous can make their own oxygen. There's no oxygen up there. Nitrous makes their own oxygen. So if you understand how it is and understand how to run it, you can still be very fast. In fact, I think Lizzie won Colorado, didn't she?
She did, but, we're spoiler alert here, but it took everything they had. I think they were shipping parts from Pat Busey Racing Engines out there.
But absolutely.
To keep it going. And
everybody else is on the ragged edge out there too. Yeah. If you think anybody ain't running their cars hard, you're crazy. You know what I mean?
You have to be. That's the way it's always been, even in the old days. You had to tear shit up to be successful in Denver. I think that goes across the board, all combinations.
Typically,
especially combinations that don't run there a lot. If you don't have a ton of data there.
Lyle, I don't think your mic's on.
How about now?
No. Anyway, yeah, it's
I think it's
just a lack of. I think it's.
I can hear him, but it's not. It's just not going through the mic.
Yeah. So here's my take on the nitrous. Of course, I'm not the big pro nitrous tuner a lot of those guys are, but here's the thing. Think about it like this. So if you roll up there and you're in 7,000 or 8,000 foot of DA, you there's no air up there. So the first thing you're going to do, this is what I did. I took, when I rolled up there with that rare motor, I took 15% of fuel straight off the fuel map, straight up. I still ran the exact same amount of nitrous that I always ran at all the other tracks. I didn't take no nitrous off my motor, and it lived, and it was fast.
So do you think that's what everybody else does?
Well, I don't know what
they did.
I think it's the rules, Wes. As far as like what we did in Denver and what NHRA had to do, it's that if you're at a restricted boost limit, they can electronically control their boost. The other combinations
they can't. Yeah,
but
I'm just curious,
but in this situation, but to me, that's the That's the problem there with turbo or anything else, is that if you're controlling the rules by an electronically controlled
it's just
boost
funny
limit,
that Corey says that, because I remember in year 1 of the Drag Illustrated World Series of Pro Mod, our buddy Jim Whiteley, I called Jim. He lives in Grand Junction, Colorado, obviously huge supporter of pro modified drag racing. And I told him, I said, man, the biggest challenge we're going to have with this race is getting nitrous cars. And he goes, oh, don't let them fool you. Don't let them fool you. They can run good out here. And it was just funny because that was in 2016. And obviously to date, we had one nitrous car come run with us in Denver. Because no one thought they could run out there. And so to hear Big Country say that he didn't hurt nothing out there is like,
there's a classic picture. My dad from the Super Chevy days back in the late 80s, early 90s. And it's a frame picture on his wall, and it's him looking like he's just on a 3-day bender,
ready to quit drag racing.
honing the engine that's in the car. He's got one engine on the hoist and another engine just sitting like in pieces over the corner. And he wrote on it, having fun in Denver, 1990 or whatever. So he had gone through 3 engines, and he said he actually put the original one back in and honed it because it was the least destroyed of the 3. And that's just, what they did.
Here's my take on the nitrous deal. When the water grains are still favorable, and they were in Colorado, you can still run. If the water grains get down low, if they get down around 20 or something, you're going to have to pull some volume off the motor. The guys that don't pull no volume off the motor is the guys that hurt them. But if they're up there like around 50, 60, that's the same water grains everybody's been running in. You can still keep running your nitrous tune-up. And that's what I did. I think a lot of guys overthink that, but I knew that Pat and them were going to be a favor. I knew Kai would be favored, and I really felt like the turbo guys were going to be favored. And I think because, as long as they can, a lot of the guys, I think the turbo guys, when I was there the last time, I heard how a lot of them couldn't spool up. For me, I'd be changing my converter. If the car won't go on the chip, I'd be changing my converter. I wouldn't try and run the same converter, but that's just me. But because them turbo guys, they literally were only losing maybe 2 pounds of boost at best.
Yeah.
So
that's what we ran into at our race.
The performance of the car is still there. They just couldn't get on the chip. Well, that's a pretty easy thing to do. Change the converter, loosen the stator up, change the front pump. I mean, those are the things that you learn as you're going through these cars and you're tuning. Same thing with the nitrous. If the water grains get down to real low, a lot of these guys probably going to pull a little volume off that motor to make it live. If the water grains are still up there, the DA is just, it doesn't want all that fuel in the motor. You can change your fuel map. There's so many things you can do to make them things live. And I honestly felt like the nitrous cars and the turbo cars were going to definitely be the cars to beat for those next 3 races. And they were the cars to beat for those next 3 races.
I think EFI has changed that a lot too. I think just
absolutely
the granular changes and like the changes you're talking about, it's something you couldn't really do with a carburetor.
Yeah, that was my question a while ago, is how dry it was. I assumed it was super dry on the mountain, but Corey, you said that it was decent. There was a decent amount of water grains there.
Well, we lost him.
Corey left.
Yeah, he said they owe you guys.
Well, I think turbos did pretty well at this race too. So we'll see how this deal ends up. But
I want to watch.
I think it's just hard. Real quick, I think it's hard on all these combinations for various reasons.
I'm good. I had to turn some heat on. Cold in here.
Dude, so basically, what just happened is they all sorted things out. I don't know what happened to. Let me kick him from the studio, and we'll see if he can come back. If he texts me, we'll have him back. I got to be honest with you guys. I love all the tech talk, don't you? We don't get to do this much. Like our Wednesday show, we don't get to do a whole lot of technical stuff.
Yeah, so, it's fun, man. I don't think a lot of people realize how technically adept he is, or whatever you want to say, and that he tunes the car and everything. So it's a pretty cool deal.
No, I think it's fantastic, man. I'm glad we're getting to hear, actually have a conversation that's here he is.
Put the glasses
Big Country's
on.
back with us.
We were getting deep.
Man,
we had to get the glasses.
Whacked out my phone.
It's all good, big dog. So I think, are we down into third round here, guys? Catching up on No Prep Kings tonight, season 4 on Discovery Channel. Boosted going around the block here.
Listen. I know I've been kind of blabbing a lot, but listen, I really got to say something. I got to say something about this thing. I'm glad that Justin did what he did in Arizona. I'm glad he held Kai's feet to the fire. As far as, stealing those free points, you shouldn't be able to do that. I mean, at the end of the day, that's just racers etiquette. We all got to race by the rules. If there's not rules and you don't hold by them, then why have rules? I mean, at the end of the day, you don't need to get a free win. If you got to cheat to win, you don't need to be drag racing. I mean, at some point we got to have, you got to have some integrity in the sport. So I'm glad that Justin, even though I know him and Kai are buddies, I don't know if they're buddies anymore because I don't get in the middle of all that.
It wouldn't seem that way right now.
I'm glad that he held Kai's feet to the fire. He also told Kai in that deal that he told him in the driver's meeting, you're not going to get them points. And I saw on last week's episode, everything that Justin said that he said about that deal, he was 100% truthful. He did everything. So, and they can hate on Justin all they want, but they should be mad at themselves. Simple as that. They shouldn't be mad at Justin. And even with Pat and his crybaby ass fucking shit that he tries to blame Justin for that deal, that listen, at the end of the day, that's just Pat being a crybaby. He should just stand up, be a man, and say, hey, I called them out because they were testing. They shouldn't have been testing. Pat was testing in Virginia the week before that race. I mean, I think Ryan was testing at a race, at the end of the day. Then they even said about us testing, which we didn't know about either. And I'm not saying any of those guys knew. They didn't know. I can guarantee you that. If they knew, they wouldn't have done it. It's just that so happens Mike Murillo, Pat made an example out of them. But then he tried to blame it on Justin. He didn't want to just man up and say he was calling them out and he was protesting. He wanted to blame it on Justin instead of just being a man and saying, no, I'm not letting you by. I'm protesting you. It is what it is. But they called us all the way back out to the second race. So we said, no problem. Listen, we got beat the first round. Go ahead and take those 5 points away. But go ahead and go back to Lizzie that I think she went 4 rounds of Virginia. Take her 20 points away. Go back to Ryan. He won a race. Take his 30 points away. Go back to everybody. Kai Kelly was tested in Virginia. Let's take them all away. We're good with it. We don't care. We're fine. Y'all want to go back? Go back. But nobody wanted to do that. After that was mentioned, they was like, oh, well, shoot, Justin's only going to lose 5 points. We probably ought to shut up and let that go away. We don't want to say no more about that. That's the real truth about it. So, a little disappointed in Pat. He's been racing all this time. I know there was some video of what he was down there hollering Jeff Lutz and staring at Justin. And, he was just basically trying to taunt Justin. And I'm glad that Justin didn't retaliate. I'm glad Justin didn't say nothing. Justin just told Lutz, good job, went on about his business. You know what I mean? So that to me just tells me that Justin is bigger than what Pat was trying to do down there. Now,
that?
Pat,
is that at Denver or is that at the previous race?
I think that was might have been Denver. Hell, I can't keep up with them. No, I think that was in.
No, it was in the last race in Arizona.
Last race.
Arizona, yeah. So, he was just trying to taunt Justin, and Justin didn't let, Pat's not going to get in Justin's head. I can promise you that. Justin's a cool cat. So, but at the end of the day, we got to race Lizzie, and, we basically packed her up, put her on the trailer. So that was more gratifying for us. But I can tell you, when Justin be here, all Justin did was get out and tell Lizzie, good race, man. Congratulate. That was a tight race, good race. Our whole crew congratulated her. We didn't go down there and talk a bunch of shit to her. We didn't say no shit out of the way, but that's who we are. One thing about it is our crew, all of our members, we're going to be the same on camera as we are off camera. We don't need to look to see if a camera's looking at us while we're talking. Some other people need that, but we don't need that, and we're good with that.
Obviously, we got Ryan Martin winning the championship. And that's a little self-serving plug here. We're going to have Ryan Martin on the show later this week, Thursday morning at the PRI show between 10 and noon. We're also going to have Lyle Barnett join us Thursday morning in studio with us on the PRI main stage. Super exciting deal. I'm curious, who's headed into next year? Obviously, Ryan Martin is, he's won two championships in a row. But there's some guys making some moves, and I'm just curious, big country, who do you look at? I mean, outside of yourselves, who do you think are some of the other teams that are going to really kind of level up in 2022? Do you think there's some other teams that are going to be in the mix?
Man, I don't know, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of that is financially driven. You know, you got to really have the funds to do it. You know, one thing about Ryan, you know, we don't pocket watch nobody, but Ryan obviously has the funds, but Ryan tests, and he tests a lot, and you can't take nothing away from Ryan Martin. I see a lot of people hate on him a lot. You know, you're going to have the good guys, the bad guys. People have their own drivers, but I don't personally myself, I don't hate on Ryan. I think he's a great guy. I really don't. I mean, I've been around Ryan enough now. I've never even seen nothing bad out of him, to be honest with you. I think he's a really stand-up guy. I think he's a good guy. There's a lot of them on there, but I've been watching on TV that I see who they really are now, and I'm cool with that. I don't have no problem with that because I'm not going to try and change anybody's mind. I see how they are to our face, and I see how they are on TV behind our back, and I'm glad that I'm seeing what's going on TV. One thing about our crew, you're not going to see us behind the scenes talking shit to nobody. We just talk shit to their face because that's how we are. If we got something to say, we'll say it. And we're all grown men. We can either agree or disagree. But, you know, Ryan puts a lot of passes on that car. Ryan tests a lot. He tries different things. He has won 2 championships, and I'll be honest with you, he's going to be the man to beat next year. He just is. He's putting in work, you know, hopefully our stuff turns around. Maybe stuff gets a little better. Maybe some money comes Justin's way and he can test it a little more and give Brian a little more competition. But I think Dave Comstock, he's got a good program. He runs good. Sean, you know, he's hit or miss, but he can run good. I mean, there's several of them that can run, but I'll be honest with you, Ryan Martin's going to be the one that's going to stand out the most. I don't think nobody tests and puts more money into their product to try and win that race. And that's what he's supposed to do. He's doing exactly what he is supposed to do. And he's supposed to get out there and win those races. And that's what he's doing. And there ain't nobody that loves drag racing can be mad about that, no matter what.
We'll have to ask Ryan about that on Thursday for sure. Like,
what'd you say?
His testing schedule and regimen. We'll have to ask him about that.
Well, like, I'm just curious because Lyle, you've got a front row seat to this right now. Like, you guys dived into, I think this is a fun thing to discuss. So, and I'm not trying to take shots at anybody that's accomplished a lot in pro mod drag racing, but if you rewind the clock, if you pull the tape back to like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, holy shit. I mean, pro modified drag racing it's a stark contrast to what we see today. Like 1 in 4 cars, 1 in 6 cars make a full pull. You know what I mean? It's a lot of, I mean, you see multiple crashes at every NHRA national event. I mean, I remember you don't have to rewind the clock very far. Mike, you remember this. Lyle, I'm sure you were paying attention. There was a time not that long ago that every session of NHRA Pro Mod was at least a major oil down, if not a car barrel rolling. You know what I mean? Consistency in the cars making A to B laps, we did not see that long ago. And I'm just curious, Lyle, what's your take on that? Because it seems to be that same situation seems to be the difference between the people who win races, set records, win championships, and those who don't right now in NHRA Pro Mod. And it's funny because I guess what I'm trying to say is that whole commitment to testing, the commitment to the maintenance program away from the track, that used to be something when it comes to door slammer drag racing only existed really in pro stock, right? Then it moved into pro mod. And now it seems like it's rapidly infiltrating no prep drag racing. I'm curious, do you think that's the difference between those who can and those who can't, Lyle? A commitment to testing, a commitment to the effort away from the racetrack?
Yeah, I mean, I think all those things come into play, but it really goes back. The root of it goes back to what we were talking about just a little bit ago, and it's those elite tuners and the elite groups of racers that come together to create these teams that are successful. You know, like if you walk through the NHRA pits, you've got Steve Petty tuning on at least 2 or 3. You've got Frank Manzo and Larry Morgan as a combo on one car. You've got, as Big Country said, Billy Stockland and Stevie Jackson and Phil Schuler on a car. You've got Mike Janis and Janis Jr. on a car. And with the except Brad Personette, you've got these elite guys that tune these cars, and those are the ones that are successful and win championships. In the no prep deal, you've got Steve Petty helping, you've got Jamie Miller helping, you've got Brandon Stroud helping, you've got Pat Musey and Robert Hayes, and when you really sit back and look at it, the really successful and the top tier teams that are winning championships and winning races all have a common denominator, and it's some elite tuner. It's no longer Wes, JT, and Mike, go
teaming
break up.
Yeah.
Damn, what's wrong with that?
Well, a lot, but go break out one of Charles's old cars and come and run. It's no longer your backyard.
That'd be a show in itself.
Oh, God.
I agree. We would go
show.
right back to all downs every sessions and cars on their lid. But, it's no longer build it in your backyard, find somebody who can do a little bit of math, and go to the racetrack. They all revolve around some elite tuner or some elite group of tuners that race these things. So I think you don't see as many crashes and stuff and whatnot in pro modified as you used to. One, because we've started paying more attention to aerodynamics, and then that goes into the technology that's came forth and traction control. I mean, there's a lot of things that play into that, but you also don't have as many independent teams anymore. And
I kind of think that's a problem. I mean,
I do too. No,
I
agree
appreciate
100%.
Everything you're saying, but yet it's also part of the problem. Is why we're losing a bit of the identity of pro modified and what made it unique. It's kind of the same thing that the fuel teams are going through right now. I think we're kind of going to see a renaissance of this. Hopefully in 2022, we talked about this with the fuel cars, with the super teams breaking up a little bit, and some of these guys bringing out independent teams. Yeah. I think that's what the sport needs. I appreciate everything you're saying, and I think that is a reason why the sport has moved forward and why, 90 or not 99 out of 100, but 75 out of 100 cards make it down the track. But we have lost some of the stuff that made it great originally. So there's something to be said for both sides.
Well, then
one of these
has
cars
driven the cost through the roof.
That too.
I mean, it all that stuff comes into play.
Big Country, what do you think about
one of these cars make it down the track? Oh, go ahead, Murder T.
What do you think about the Lexus going to the streets? You excited about that?
No.
I knew that was going
to next question.
Because I'll tell you why. That's going to require me doing a whole lot of work, being out there on the side of the fucking interstate or wherever they race at, and all that shit, man. I'm going to have to start over scratch. No, I hate that shit. I'm not going to lie, man. It drives me nuts.
So what's next? What's coming for NPK next year from Swing Gang?
Justin's going to continue to run prenup. He's getting a new car built, but I doubt that car will be ready in time. And if he's already in stride, prenup is a pretty well worked out car right now. I mean, we're going to do something different in January again. It's probably going to blow everybody away, but that's just my crazy ass son. But prenup is kind of, it's now we've bounced it around. We're doing different things. The car works really, really, really well. And that's another thing, when we first started running no prep, we had a couple older cars and we fixed them up. And at the end of the day, you can only polish a turd so much because at the end of the day, it's still going to be a turd. You have to get a purpose-built car. You have to get a car built for what you're trying to do. You can't take an X275 car and try and go run Pro Mod, and you can't take a Pro Mod car and go over and run no prep. It doesn't work. I'm just telling you. The wheelbases, where the engine placement, the engine height, the nose percentage versus the rear, it's all purpose-built. One of the reasons why I think that we did as good as we did this year is because we built a purpose-built car. Again, I'll give Justin all the credit in the world. I was 100% against it. I feel like I can just get something and make it work, but nothing's worked like that car worked. And that car came out the gate. It just needed adjustments, kept tweaking, and made it work. You got to have a purpose-built car for whatever you're trying to do. So, for us to go to the street, we kind of took that in consideration. Where that motor placement's at, the height of it, everything about that car. So, yes, that car will go to the street, and what we learned this year will go into the new car.
Do you think you'll run a liner on the street?
No.
I was going to say.
I won't. But who knows, I mean, I'll have to see where it's beneficial to me. Yeah, that liner and that beadlock runs completely different. Listen, we went
take us through those. Like, all of us are interested. Compare and contrast the two.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Using prenup as an example.
We went at 81 in Orlando, and I had this wild idea. We were running Marcus Burt. I felt like he was going to run a 73, 74. And Justin, though, was cutting killer lights, and he was all over the tree. I felt like, man, if I can just run a 75 or 76, and if Marcus goes 040, 050, Justin's going to go O's on the tree. We might just have an upset, regardless if we go home out of the second round, but we might put Marcus out. So that's when I decided to put that liner tire on her, and lo and behold, that thing slowed us down. It did. I mean, we went from 81 to 89 with the same tune-up. So they're completely different. That's when I went to, I wanted to try it one more time. I felt like we failed. I felt like I made the wrong decision, and we failed ourselves. But I said, let's go to let's go to Bradenton, and let me try it. We got out there. We rattled twice. I kind of felt like it was definitely the weight percentage. And then we finally started getting our act together. And then we actually learned something. We learned something about that racetrack being tighter out there with a boost that we felt like it's got to be ran completely different than a beadlot. You cannot run those two tires the same. That's what I can tell you. You have to learn the difference in the tune-up between those two tires. You can't flip tire back.
What is the difference?
Oh, I can't tell you that.
For audience. No.
I can't tell you that.
A liner is heavier, right?
Yeah.
And more shake proof. I think that's what the idea is.
To me, I felt like it's more like a radial tire. I felt like it's more of a stiffer sidewall, because those tracks, let me tell you something. Back in 06 and 07, when I was running that Wally Street Pro Mod, so those tracks weren't like they are now. Man, those tracks out there pulling
totally different, right?
It's something that's come about as torque converters, automatic transmissions, and massive horsepower, track
and
prep.
The ADRL, I think, introduced like crazy ass track prep. And ladies and gentlemen, real quick, I want to introduce to the party the one and only bangshift.com superstar, the mouth of the South. I'm going to call him.
He's definitely not from the South.
The mouth of the South. Chad Reynolds.
I'm drinking
Southern California, maybe.
He's drinking moonshine, is that what you said?
I'm drinking moonshine right here. So yes.
Hey,
I've got to go make another drink here in
I bought a still last week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And then I'm expecting some shine for some tasting.
Yeah. Once PRI is over, I haven't had time to put it together yet.
No, you got to get after it. But I do think it's fun talking about the different. I think people don't, honestly, Big Country, I think you're surprising a lot of people, because everybody in the comments is like, wow, Big Country dropping knowledge. And I do think it's fun for people to understand that you don't necessarily have to be Jamie Miller or Pat Musey or Steve Petty, as you've mentioned, or Justin Elks to work. I think this is a great storyline to develop. Like, obviously, those guys play a role in our sport in a big way, but there's a lot of people out here that can make these cars fast.
Absolutely. So let me tell you that the difference where it's hard to beat Steve Petty, it's hard to beat Jamie Miller, it's very hard to beat Billy Stockland. So when you have your hands, well, Billy's not so much anymore, but because he's kind of focused right on Stevie's car. But when you have your hands on many different cars, let me tell you something. Knowledge is key. And that's kind of where I revert back to Steve. I've become very good friends with Steve. And let me tell you something. Do you all want to know how I got the name Steve Big Country?
Yes. We absolutely do.
So back in it was 2007, 2008. I can't remember. I had somehow I ended up with a fucking turbo car, and I was running an X275, and I actually reached out to Steve to help me with his car. And we went to South Georgia, and we were private testing. I think Donald hooked me up with him, and we were private testing. I didn't know Steve from Adam, but Donald was like, "This is the guy you need." And we went out there and made a few runs. And I remember I was in the car getting suited up or whatever, and Steve was doing something, and he was getting ready to go up there, and he had hollered guys. He goes, "Hey man, tell Big Country, get in the car, let's go." And ever since he called me Big Country, I have literally been called Big Country by everybody in the industry. That's exactly how I got that name from Steve.
Awesome. And now Justin's little country by proxy, I guess.
Dude, yeah. He just was guilty by association, I guess. You know what I mean? But that's how it ended up like that. But like I said, to beat a guy, I've become very good friends with Steve since, especially I always acknowledge all those guys. I mean, to me or them, me to them, I'm probably not much, because those guys are, they're professionals. That's what they do. But I always enjoy talking to them. I don't really try to pick their brain too much, if at all any, because, that's what they do for a living, man. If you're going to have to use those guys, you got to pay them to do it. Simple as that. But those guys are very, very hard to beat because they are in a computer all the time. They're so very knowledgeable. They have so many cars, man. They can just make that shit work. Where a guy like me, I got to struggle. But, I choose to do that. That's my own fault. At the end of the day, those guys have all that knowledge with all those cars, and they just know how to make those cars rip. I just got to work at it a little harder. But I've never been in my whole life. I've had to struggle for everything in my whole life. I've never been all afraid to work. But I think every guy can do that as long as they're willing to put in the work, as long as they're really willing to try and understand what they're trying to do. Man, you can do a lot of things out there. I feel like I can run as fast or real close to some of the guys that are best of the best in the business. I never ran a fuel tech in my life. Steve ran the car twice. I never had him show me nothing. I never pulled a data log out, nothing, man. I jumped in a fuel tech. We went to the track. I had like 2 nights studying on the computer, and we went and ran the car, and I figured out, now I've been in Haul Tech, I've been in Holly, I've been in EFI technology, and I've been in fuel tech. Some of those guys only stay zoned in on one EFI. Like, I think Stevie will only run Holly. I'm pretty sure Steve and some of those fuel tech guys will only run fuel tech. I've had to run several different EFIs because I help guys out, and I'm not good enough to be able to tell them, hey, if you want me to work on your car, you got to change your EFI. I'm just not that guy. So I got to try and figure it out. Is it a struggle? Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle, but at the end of the day, it's actually helped me because I've seen a lot of different stuff in each EFI. Like, if I could take all those EFIs and put them together, it would be a badass EFI. It really would. But I do little stuff in each different EFI, and it helps me because I feel like I'm better when I get in it every time and I can do different stuff with them. And it's just helped me out as a tuner.
I think it's interesting because one of the things that we're seeing right now, and we just saw a great race between Disco Dean Carnes
That's close.
And Ryan Martin. And I think that's personally, we had Disco Dean on the show a couple of weeks ago, who is hilarious.
He is funny.
Oh my
Jesus
God.
Christ, he's hilarious.
He's like one of the funniest people alive. But don't you think is that good for the show to see like what appears to be like a not purpose-built car at all in that pink Chevelle with a screw blower stuffed between the frame rails, to see him like hanging in there with Ryan Martin is encouraging for the group. I'm just curious, Big Country, Chad, Lyle, I want to get everybody involved in this one. I mean, are we headed in the right direction with these super high-end cars, Big Country? Do you feel like we've accelerated the expiration date on No Prep Kings racing by having the cars be so good so quickly?
I feel like you do have to have a purpose-built car. As far as Dean, like his car, it's definitely the older car. If you want to get to the next level, you do have to have that purpose-built car, and I really do. Dean runs
building a new one, right?
Yes. Dean runs very, very well, and he does, man. And he doesn't even push his combo, and he'll tell you his pocket won't allow him. If you had somebody like Steve Jackson running his combo, that car would be much faster. So, and that's the, like everybody knows between me and Steve, there's no love lost between us. We've all had me and him had our little quarrels, but you know what? I support Stevie Jackson. I support him and what he does in Pro Mod. Whether he likes it or not, I still give credit where credit is due. I think he's one of the best things that ever happened to NHRA in Pro Mod. At the end of the day, you have to have someone come in there and shake it up. And I'm going to tell you another thing that shakes that scene up. Stevie has come in there, and he's really made some big waves in Pro Mod. But now you had J.R. Gray come in there, and he made some waves. You got Lyle in there. And what that does is Stevie is getting in there, and he's running so hard. And sometimes when you get running hard, you get a little bit complacent. And I'm not saying that team does, but when you have Lyle roll in there and start kicking the feet out from underneath you, you have J.R. Gray come there. All that does is motivate somebody like Stevie, and it really does. When he gets that ass beaten, he goes home and does his homework, and it motivates him. Same thing happens like with Justin and MPK. Ryan Martin was just on a ship, and he's driving that thing out to sea because he knows where he's going. He's got Steve Petty back there, and he's going to be hard to beat. But Justin got in there, And Justin got in there and kicked the feet out from some of them guys. And I'll be honest with you, that's what it does. A lot of people don't like it. They don't like to see a guy come in there and, shake the boat up. But you need that in drag racing. Nobody wants to see the same guy win over and over and over again. There's no story there. There's no, nobody's going to continue to keep watching that. You have to have someone there shake it up. Whether it's a good guy, bad guy, doesn't matter how it happens. You got to, and what that does, those guys, the cream will always rise to the top. Those guys that are the elite group, they're going to put in the work. And that's exactly what Ryan Martin does right now. He puts in the work. Stinky Pinky, I think that Dean is a hell of a team, and I think he's probably building a new car. And I'll be honest with you, I think he's probably going to come out there and he's going to shake it up. And that's how I honestly feel. I feel like he is definitely a team that can shake things up. If he has a purpose-built car, he's gonna be a contender. He's already a contender now. Just imagine if he has a better car.
One thing about Dean you got to remember is he's a real racer. And when I say that,
he's a bracket racer.
I'm not discounting anybody else or anybody. Yeah, he's a guy that knows how to work the tree. He knows how to play the games on the tree. Okay. And quite frankly, sometimes you don't got to be the best guy. You just got to be the guy that makes the best guy screw up.
Let me tell you something. And here's what I tell everybody. The best drag racers in the world are bracket racers. I promise you when I tell you that.
Joke.
The best drag racers in the world. And most of your outlaw guys, your heads up guys will talk shit. But I promise you, the badass, and there are some badass bracket racers out there, those guys can literally cut the tree down and cut it down consistently. And those are the guys that will put your ass on a trailer and send your ass home. Do you know how many guys I see, and I see it day in and day out, and I bust Justin's ass over it all the time. I tell him to make sure no matter what he does, he's got one job in that car until he lets go of that button. He's got one job. It doesn't matter what that ride's going to be like. I don't give a shit if that son of a bitch is dancing, moving left and right. He's got one job until he lets go of that button, and that is to get out the gate first. And that's the difference between a lot of pro racers out there. They suck on the tree. And I'm just going to say it. I don't give a shit who don't like it. I've seen guys out there with fast ass hot rods and go out there and go 120 light. Let me tell you what's going to happen between me and Justin if he goes 120 light and I give him a fast hot rod and he gets beat. I promise you, me and him will be down there again rolling around the dirt. You can take that to the bank. So in order to beat some of these guys that are fast, the crew guy's got to do his job. The driver's got to do his job, and hopefully both come together. Sometimes the crew guy saves the driver. Sometimes the driver saves the crew guy. But at the end of the day, I cut my teeth bracket racing. I really did. I was a bracket racer back in the day. And I felt like bracket racing was what made me be able to cut a really good light and be consistent about it. So a lot of these pro guys that jump in these fast cars and go run pro outlaw or whatever they're running, heads up racing, the reason why they're so shitty on the light is because they never bracket raced in their life. And that's why they suck. And, I don't know if they'll get better or not. I don't know how you get better.
Well, I'll tell you what, here's one thing, though, that I have to say. I also think, and there's going to be some people who are going to argue with me on this, and that's too bad because they're wrong. Bracket racers make better street racers as well. And here's why. Sure. Right now, the street race scene is all about cash days events, right? Going rounds. Well, hate to tell you, but that ain't street. Okay. I'm sorry. That's not street racing. Okay. That's just doing a laddered drag race on a street. That ain't street. Right. Okay. You come to Northern California and I'll show you some street racing where it's still done the right way. The right way is that you never, ever, ever, ever gap a guy. You don't want to beat a guy by a gap. You beat a guy by a gap that's costing you money because ain't no son of a bitch that's going to bet with you.
Going to race you ever again.
Dude, so what you want to do is you want to win every street race just like a bracket race, which is just by a fender or less. It's why all the years street racing in Northern California in my 11-second Camaro, there were guys that added hundreds of horsepower to their cars, and somehow I still beat them with the exact same combo by a fender every time. Yeah, you know why? Because otherwise you're shooting yourself in the foot. You can't make no money at it, right?
That's right.
And don't get me wrong, it isn't all about making the money. but it sure adds a different element of fun, you know? So yeah, racing on the street and street racing, two different things, just like street racing is not drag racing.
It's funny, man, how there's such a broad. Listen, I love drag racing as a whole. I actually love any type of racing. I even like NASCAR racing. I'll be honest with you. If it's got a motor on it and they're racing,
it's all over now.
Wait a minute. Now you said you didn't like cars. You said you'd rather be hunting or fishing.
Yeah, no, for sure. I like anything
that's pettier friends.
I like anything that's a hot rod. Anything that's fast. I mean, I've always liked it. So I give everybody their own respect. But you take bracket racing, how they race, you take the pro mods, how they race, you take no prep, you take the street racing. So they're all different drivers, every one of them. That, you know, even some of those guys that go out there on that no prep track and they let it all hang out, but they don't really know how that car feels going out through there. And a lot of them end up into the wall. No different than I'm sure street racing is the same way. I grew up street racing. That's all I ever did. Now, did I have a car out there going 450s on the street like these guys are going? No, absolutely not. I mean, I had a car that was 10-second flat car that was a street car. That's what me, Troy Perez, a lot of us from down here in Florida, that's what we all raced on out there in the street. So, you know, but all that racing is, every one of those races are a different type of racing. Some of them can do it all. Some of them are one-dimensional, but they all have their own place in drag racing. So for me, I'm never one to hate on another man's type of racing. Whatever they do, I feel like it's supporting drag racing, and I'm all for it.
Corey and Lyle, do you guys feel like your experience in radial racing, did it help or hurt your experience in no prep racing? Lyle, I'm going to throw it to you first. We haven't heard from you in a minute. Like, do you, with the tracks being so killer at places like Valdosta and Orlando and Memphis, like, does that set you up to do well in no prep when you still got to be aggressive with the car and put a bunch of bite in it? Or, I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think they're different enough that, you know, I've been told that it's much easier to go from radial racing into slick tire and no prep style racing than it is to go the other way. I went from radial racing to the slick tire side. And the point that they made when they told me that was, you see a lot of these guys, the bigger money guys that have been pro mod racing that put their shit on radials when Radial versus the World was becoming a big thing. And Corey can tell you from his experience and his experience watching his son do it, that when a radial gets in trouble, it's in trouble and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, you're not saving it. You can pedal it, but you're not saving it driving through it, right? And a lot of these guys would try to drive through what started as tire shake and turned into a full-blown John Force burnout. The next thing I know, they've nosed it in the wall, you know? So I do think going from radial racing to slick tire racing is good in that sense. But the difference between the two, otherwise, they're just two totally different things. Like, I think you can become a better driver in the no prep and the slick tire racing world, just being able to leave the starting line and let go of the button first. But otherwise, they don't cross over. Like, you don't drive them the same. They don't drive the same. Nothing about it is the same. They don't burn out the same. Nothing is the same between the two. So I think that just making laps, whether you're radial racing or whatever you're doing, is good no matter what. But as far as the two being comparable, they're just not. The cars, like Corey said, they don't set up the same. You just do not run them any bit the same. So I guess there are some pros coming from the radial side and going that way, but as far as what you learn, they're just totally different. You know, they're just not the same at all.
Corey, what'd you make of your experience going from the hyper prepped tracks in radial racing to the no prep tracks?
So for me, all my years, you know, for a long time, I ran 10.5 Outlaw. So, you know, I ran on a 10.5W. Then I ran into Pro Mod with Donald. And then somehow, some way, I guess me knowing Donald as long as I did, somehow I got fucked up with a radial tire car. So, you know, here was the thing. And me, because I've always done everything on my own, you know, I struggled very, very bad. Like, I struggled really hard to try and get a radial tire to go, because all I ever knew was a slick tire and wheelie bars. It took me a very long time to figure that radial tire out. Once I figured it out, obviously I started getting better and better with it to treat it how it worked, you know, and I got better with the radial tire. And I did it for like, I don't know what we ran radial for, man, like 10 years or something, 10, 12 years. I ran radial tire.
Long time.
And that's all we ran. I mean, honestly, I never even thought I'd be back on a slick. So for someone who is crewing on a car, now that I knew the radio, when I went back to try the slick, man, I'm not going to lie to you. There was times I sat in my chair and I'm like, are you fucking stupid? I mean, you know, I would tell myself this. I mean, like, what are you fucking doing, man? You ran a slick. I couldn't get the car to go down track. I couldn't. I fought it. And I was ready to quit. I mean, honestly, we put that big tire on Alcatraz, tried to run Pro Mod.
I remember this, man. Yeah.
Dude, we about shook the whole body off that car. I did everything I could.
That was a race.
And I was ready to give up on it. I was. I'm not going to lie. And Justin's like, Dad, he talked me into it one more time. He's like, Dad, listen, let's go. Let's go one more time. I got a feeling we're going to figure it out. And we got out there, and lo and behold, we finally got it to go. And it went 379 at 203. Its first rip. I mean, just a bullshit tune-up. And after that, we started laying down some rips. So, you know, the difference between the two tires and the two suspensions are just so night and day different. So as a tuner and as someone's tuning on a chassis and the tune-ups, they're just completely different. On the driver aspect of it is, I think on a radial tire, for a driver to be able to drive by the seat of his pants, here's the thing with a radial, it either goes or it doesn't. It's that simple. It's either going to make the trip or it's not going to make the trip. Simple as that. If you're out there trying to rip the throttle and pedal it and do all that, you're probably going to stuff it in the wall. But they do have to drive by the seat of their pants, because as a tuner, we want to load them up. We want to run fast, and they do have a chance to go out there and power wheelie. If you get a car out there, if you go out there in 200 or 300 feet, you could get yourself in trouble. One thing I'll give Justin credit for, he's very, very good on equipment. He's very good. I've wheelied him. I can't tell you how many times. I just wheelied him this weekend. He hasn't been in a radial car in a year and a half. He got behind a car that wasn't his, that was had a 959 Pat Musey motor in it. Dude, he ripped out of that car, started going up there, and he ripped that thing, set it down, and made a pass. Like he never missed a beat.
Oh,
he hasn't even been in a radial car in a year and a half. So, but at the end of the day, I think that makes those drivers, because they can feel it by the seat of their pants. If you have that radial tire experience where you do not have those wheelie bars down there, I really think it makes those drivers get to the next level. Now, I also will say the no prep guys running on that no prep, because of knowing the limits or what to do or how to fight that car, I think it makes them into a next level as well. Like, I would say a no prep racer on those big tires could crawl into a Pro Mod and be a hell of a driver. I really do. I have seen what Justin has had to do, and I've seen the in-car videos of him of what he has to do basically from the 330 on to get that car through there. And I'll be honest with you, for me, I don't want no fucking parts of that shit. Like that, you just either have to be just completely stupid to want to have to drive a car down through there 190, 195, 200 mile an hour that's completely trying to fuck you up going through there. Like, you know, you really have to, you have to sit there and think in your mind, why would I want to do this? Like for me at 50 years old, people say, hey, when's Big Country going to drive? I'll tell you, never, 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 never. I don't need to go 200 mile an hour. I don't need to go 205. I don't need to be going in a fucking no prep car that's completely out of control. I don't never need to be doing none of that shit. Those days of me are over. And I promise you that, man. I'm not going to do it. So all those guys that drive from the radial to the Pro Mods to the no prep, you know, I just think it's a different talent in each one. And if you're fortunate enough to drive in every one of them, you're going to be a very well-rounded driver. I'm not going to say this about Justin because he's my son, but I will tell you this. He's a fucking good driver. If one thing he can do is he can drive the wheels off a race car. That's a fact. I know when I go to the starting line with him, I am very confident that I'm going to win a race. That's a fact.
Corey,
But you know, the other advantage of him being your driver is that he's your kid, so you can open the door and just smack him in the mouth and nobody can do shit about it.
Yeah, he's a little too big to do that anymore. He's grabbed me up a couple times. I mean, both my sons have. I don't even wrestle and play with them no more, man, because they're both stronger. They're both bigger than me. I don't even play with them no more. But at the end of the day, dude, I have never really given him. I'm not the guy that, man, honestly, it's just kind of how my dad raised me, man. Here's how I tell my son, thank you. I'm behind him 110%. I support him. I work for him. I push him. I drive him. Am I the guy that tells you, thank you, good job, you're doing great? Am I going to fluff his nuts? I'm not that guy, man. That's just not me. At the end of the day, it's about me working. When he's sleeping, when he's been out there and he's worked on the car and he goes to bed and I'm up to 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm in the computer trying to find speed for him because I know he's got a car that can win a race. That's how I thank him. That's exactly how I thank him. And same thing, when he works and he bails me out at work and he helps me, we help each other, man. We scratch each other's back. That is how we thank each other. We don't have to tell each other thank you.
Hey,
that's the way it should be.
A good segue into what I wanted to ask you about. I got to dip soon, but Corey, just like my dad and I, we share a really special relationship, and we've raced together my entire career from day one until just this past weekend. He was stuffing me in the beams, and you and Justin share a very similar bond. Y'all's dynamic a little different. Y'all are a little rougher with each other, I guess you would say, than my dad and I. But it's something that maybe as I've gotten older that I've noticed when I'm at the racetrack, but you don't see, and it's not maybe, there's guys older that are racing and maybe their dads aren't around anymore, or just aren't interested or whatever, but I don't see it as much. I don't feel like as I used to, if you think about the father-son combos that are out there, like Jay Cox and his dad, Jamie Hancock and his dad, you and Little Country, my dad and I, there are some out there, but I noticed, Disco Dean and his dad are still doing it together. But in the no prep world, you and Little Country, I think, really lead the charge as far as sharing it. You guys share it as a family. I mean, Mama Country is there, Tyler's there a good bit, and I think there's something to be said about that. And I don't think that Discovery Channel has really hit on that much, which I think they should. But you don't see that a whole lot in the no prep Kings. I don't feel like, at least, and not as much across the board in racing, period. But is that something, that I guess that you and Justin have agreed, if we're going to race, we're going to do it together. And if we're not going to do it together, we're not going to race. Cause that's kind of how my dad and I have agreed that, whenever one of us is done, we're done for good, and I want to commend y'all for doing that. Cause I think it's cool as shit.
Yeah, it is cool. I don't know if me and Justin have an agreement about that. Cause I try to quit him every race. I'm not going to lie. I'm done. But that's just me with being aggravated with it, because I'll be honest with you, Lyle, this, how hard you guys work. You look at that team that Justin Elks has put around you to actually put you up front like that. If you didn't have a team like that, nothing against you, as great as a driver as you are, you have to have a team that Justin Elks puts around you. You have to have a team, and literally Justin has built the team that he has. Now, Big Daddy Brian, he's raced with me since 2003. So he kind of got thrown right into the fire with him, because I got out of the car. What happened was, I was in a car, Justin was in a car, and I was just too nervous with Justin racing without me out there. And I just said, you know what? That's it. I don't need to be in a car. That's fine. I want to be out there with my son. It's not that I didn't trust the guys, but if something was going to happen, it needed to happen on my watch.
That's right.
So, but Justin has the other guys. He's put a really good crew around him. They all have a job. It's one thing, like, we're just a bunch of ditch diggers, and we are. We're just some old country boys that we work. But man, if you go into our pits, when that car comes in that pit, I swear to you, you would think that's a professional team. And I give Justin the credit. That car goes up in the air so fast. Fans are going on it. Valve covers are coming off. Justin's on one side of the motor. He's got another guy on the side of the motor. Another guy's up underneath hitting the converter. Another guy's in the back of the rear end, checking the rear end out, checking the axles out, torquing the wheels. I'm pulling data. I'm going in the trailer. It's like everybody knows there's 4 to 5 people on that crew, and you would think they're professionals, but they're not. They're just weekend warriors. But that's the difference between what Justin has built around himself and he doesn't bring anybody else in to make any of that happen. And he has a group of guys that all have a job to do. And you know what? They're all accountable. We all motherfuck each other. I promise you when I say that. So if one doesn't do their job, if something doesn't happen, it's a little rough around there, and it is. And we don't hold nothing back. But at the end of the day, we all know how to take our own ass chewings. If I screw up, if Justin screws up, if Brian screws up, anybody screws up, they're going to get it. That's all there is to it. And you know what, we walk away from that and we move on and we try to make ourselves better, because we're trying to compete at a very high level and still be your everyday guys. And that's a tough task.
I've got a roundtable question. I'm going to go Lyle. We got a few more minutes with you, Lyle.
Yeah.
5. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Lyle and then Chad. I want to go around, and this isn't inflammatory, but it is something I noticed this past weekend. One of the huge storylines at the 50th annual Snowbird Nationals. Shout out to Victor Alvarez, everything he accomplished down there. I think putting on perhaps one of the greatest drag races of all time.
That was
I think
awesome.
is what we saw this past weekend with the 50th Snowbird Nationals. As you mentioned earlier, Big Country, 32 cars separated by a 10th. Absolutely bananas drag racing down there in Florida.
Big Country called the
really,
he called the bump and low qualifier pretty close.
He did. I'm curious, going around the room here, how insane is it? Ken Cartuccio, Melanie Salemi, Paul O'Juice, Lyle Barnett, Justin Swanstrom. I've named off like a half dozen people who a couple of years ago would have been the stars of the show at a Radial versus the World event. And here they are on big tires and bars. I'm just curious, kind of going around the room. Lyle, I'm going to throw it to you. Is this the dynamic change? Is this the kind of the moment that we'll look at when big tires took back over?
I think so. You know, we all came from the Radial world. It's still my roots, and I still love it. But you know that I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that ship has sailed. You know, I think that big tire drag racing, or slick tire, maybe not just big tire, but slick tire drag racing is on the come up. I personally think you're going to see Outlaw 10.5 come back. I think your local Quick 8 style Pro Mod races are coming back. I think you're going to see 28-inch by 10.5 small tire racing come back. And I think you're going to see drag radials continue to die. You know, we can go back to a conversation that we've had many times on this show, on your Wednesday night or your Wednesday afternoon show. Track prep has killed radial racing single-handedly. Like,
yeah.
Money, there are so
Brutal.
many other things that play into it that are part of it as well. The money that is spent in it now, you know, it's just metric dollar at this point. But that's all because of the track prep that is provided. When you talk about having to hire, and here we are talking about the elites, right? When you hire elite track prep guys to come in and prep the track to the best of their ability, you bring in the elite tuners with the elite money spending, it turns into what drag radial racing has turned into, a money pit that is filling up.
Well,
quick,
yeah, and it's a combination that can only be run at a certain track, under certain prep, under certain conditions, at night.
Yep.
And it's so
it's
narrow
bad entertainment.
Yeah.
It's terrible. You know, like at the end of the day, when I show up to a racetrack, when Swan Gang shows up to a racetrack and Chad Reynolds shows up to stream it and Wes is there to call it, when all these things come together and you've got this huge production going on, and 60% of the time the tractor's having to go up and down the racetrack to keep the surface prepped good enough to put on a decent show, it's all bad. We're there to put on a show, and when you got big tires going up and down the racetrack and 7 out of 10 of them make the trip, and it's field separated by a 10th at 32 cars, you've got races being won on a whole shot. I mean, that's all.
And then we're gonna drag that show out. Then we're gonna drag that show out until Sunday at midnight.
Until 3 o'clock in the morning. Right. You know, like, so let's look at Pro 275 for the weekend. If you'd have had I think there were 9 cars. If you would have had a 9-car Pro Mod field, I went 365 with an 8 and I wouldn't have qualified. Right.
Yeah.
You know, like, but instead in Pro 275, you had a 366, a 368, like a 373, a 379, a 380, a 390, a 4 flat, a 420. Like, I mean, I don't even know if they qualified. 9 cars qualified within a second of each other, and,
Right.
and like that's bad business, and I think that at this point, the true diehard drag racing fan wants to come to the racetrack, and it's why no prep racing's big. We've talked about this too. Small tire no prep racing at the local level, you can have 40 cars show up and have a race done in about 7 or 8 hours. And we usually don't start them till 4 or 5 o'clock, and we're still done by midnight. But you can't do that with a drag radial race. But over the weekend, Victor Alvarez and those guys put on a great show.
Agreed.
The Pro Mod race was 32 cars, 5 rounds of racing. It was over by like 9:30 or 10 o'clock. An awesome show. But with that being said, at the end of the day, when we are there to put on a show, it is so much harder to put on a good show when you have a solid and a solely drag radials on the property as opposed to solely slick tire cars on the property.
Well,
it's just a better show, and that is why we are headed in the direction we're headed.
Exactly. No prep is the reaction to drag radial racing and
100%.
track prep.
That's a great way to phrase it, Mike.
That's exactly what I was going to say. We went from one side to the other, right? So radial, I'm going to say this, and people are going to get pissed at me about it, and I've said it. Okay. Lyle knows what I'm going to say. Donald and Donald renting South Georgia and putting on the races he has done is why we are in the position we are now, because he ruined drag racing with that. If he had not tried to set the bar so high by gluing everything so much, right? What ruined radial racing was the day they decided wheel stands weren't cool anymore. Okay. That ruined drag radial racing. Okay. When radial cars went out there and lifted the front wheels up and were running the wheels up in the air for 300 feet, that was cool. When they started doing power wheelies at 300 feet, that gets scary. We all know that. But if the track had been left the way it was before, we wouldn't have had that problem. Everybody would have stood them up, would have had them on the bumper, would have set them down by 250 feet and run them out the end. And it would have been the best drag racing in history. And we know it because it was, until they fucked it all up. Now you go 180 degrees. The no prep deal is completely because everybody hated all the prep and all of the crap. And you got into this giant pissing contest, right? And everybody mad about it. And everybody, oh, I hate radials and oh, I hate slick tires. And, it created this deal. Well, dude, here's the thing too. No prep doesn't mean no hook. Okay. I guess is the way I'd put it, right? Because we all know that any race, even if they scrape it to the concrete, unless it's that weirdo shitty place in Kentucky, if you scrape it to the concrete, after a few rounds, you're starting to get a racetrack, right? And so you go to a racetrack, no prep doesn't necessarily, and in the case of the MPK, doesn't mean that these racetracks have no rubber on them. They scrape them whatever to 200.
Yeah, it's not like they're pouring gravel.
No.
These
no prep tracks are probably akin to like a 1995 or 2000 track that you would run a pro mod on.
Yeah, didn't Tyler say they're prepping the end of the track now?
Any track we ever back, in the early days, it was when you went out first round qualifying, you just assumed this track was going to be shit. Yes. You had to go out with that mentality, and then maybe it was going to come around by the end of qualifying. And that is the exact situation that these no prep guys race under. Big Country 100%. Can attest to that. But we've gone to this mentality where, hey, first car down the track at 10 a.m. Friday morning, this track needs to be as good as it's going to be at the end of the day on Sunday afternoon. And that's a new concept. That is something that has come about, I think, because of radial racing. So it's kind of just back to how it, in my opinion, should be.
I agree, because the thing about it is we took, we all know, all of us here know tuners, chassis guys, manufacturers, shock tuning guys, etc., who go to the street in Oklahoma, all the streets across the country that all the street outlaws are running on. They go to NPK events, and they can all tell you that, yes, for the first set of, runs, the racetrack is, but it's okay, but it's not spectacular. By the end of the night, the racetrack is epic and it pulls big numbers on the testers and it's rad. And there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing it means is that they're not going out there and spraying and cleaning and doing a bunch of that junk. But if somebody oils down, they still go out there and they clean up the mess, and then they prep that lane to make sure it is equal to the other lane. Yes.
That hold on. I'm just going to stop you.
I've been there and seen it happen.
Hold up. I was at 15 NPK races. So unless you were at every race, I'm going to tell you exactly what happens when that happens. They go out there, they clean up that oil.
Do they put rice ash on the other lane too?
Hold on. They clean up that oil and they sweep that thing and they turn them loose. I promise you when I tell you this, I ran 15 NPK races. And if you had somebody oil in front of you, you were worried about running that lane. They would burn it off. They would get it all out. They wipe it up with alcohol. They would send a broom tractor down and sweep it. They will not drag it, and they turn your ass loose. And that's a fact. And I'm telling you from somebody that ran 15 of them.
God is my witness. I have stood on the starting line in Dallas for the NPK race, and I can tell you that the left lane was oiled down severely, and they did drag that racetrack and go about making sure it was safe and even with the other lane. And witnessed it. Now, I'm not saying it happens all the time, but I am telling you that it happened there.
Maybe they did different track, but that's not what I experienced when I was there, because I was always leery when someone oiled down the lane. And, I can't say they did it every time. I'm just saying at the races that I was at. And I was at the Texas race too, but I wasn't up there when that happened. And that track was very good, though. I mean, a lot of these tracks we ran on were not as good as that track.
Pat Musey was, I remember bumping into Pat down there, and he was losing his mind because I think they had gone to extra lengths to de-prep that track because it was a week removed from the NHRA national event and running fast cars for a full week. And I remember Pat was frustrated because I think they had severely tried to de-prep. I mean, they'd scraped it and scraped it and scraped it, but there'd been so much glue on the track over the course of the last week that I'm fairly certain they coated the whole thing in rice ash
that's exactly what they do.
Wall to wall.
I don't know what it is. It's like a white powder or some shit they put on that track.
Rice ash, yes.
Yeah. And I saw them doing it, and it was the first time I go, oh, holy shit, this is spikes between the motocross jumps.
Yeah,
this is literally this. We are trying to make this as sketchy as possible.
Spikes between the motocross jumps.
That's great. I like that.
No, that's what it was. I mean, that's exactly. I looked at it and I'm like, wow, I'm a big fan of this, but this is an aggressive approach.
My phone's about to go dead, but here's my take on the whole thing from Radial Racing.
Oh, we got a senior picture pose from you.
I know. That's what I was thinking.
I'm screenshotting this.
I've already been mildly aroused the entire time because you're in bed. But now I'm like, wow, okay.
I don't think you can.
Is this weird or is it not weird?
No, it's weird. It is.
So I don't think you can entirely blame it on the glue. I'm gonna tell you, it's a whole series of things. The EFIs got so much better with the traction controls. I tell you, if you took the traction control away from all of us tuners, we'd all be fucked. Simple as that. We just would. We would have to start.
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit.
We would have to literally go back and start from scratch. The traction controls take care of a lot of things to get them cars to go down through there. The second thing that ruined a lot of that racing is the Mickey Thompson tire. The tire got so good. If we all stayed on the BF Goodrich tire that we all originally ran on, it would have changed a lot of things in radial racing. I promise you that. The other thing is the Mark Menzer shocks, Santuff shocks. All the shock packages got so good that once the prep was there, now you had to bring the equipment to the prep because the track got so good and you could go so fast that the technology behind it, you could really lay down some serious power. Where I think the radial tire racing went wrong, I think the cars got so aggressive and so fast that they had to have a perfect track to run on all the time. And when the sun comes out, you can't get down the track. You're kicking the tires constantly, and the fans are tired of watching tractors run up and down and up and down and up and down and spray the glue and up and down. I think that's where it really killed it is, you know, as long as we were running in the cooler parts of the year, everything was fine. Everybody loved seeing the cars fast. Everybody loved seeing them flying. The difference with the no prep is the cars are constantly running. There's seriously very minimal downtime. Now, one of the things I'll say, and I sent Victor and Wade a text this morning, just kind of thanking them for what a great race it was this weekend. You know, I'm nobody to none of them guys, but I appreciate track owners, track prep guys. I think Wade's the manager down there.
Yep.
Just guys that really put their all in to make a race like that. And here's the thing that I like the best about that type of racing. Nothing against Donald. You know, me and Donald been good friends for a long time. We've had a little bit of falling out, but at the end of the day, I still love that little short fucker like he's my brother, and I'd still help him out if I had to. Even though I don't agree with a lot of his ways, and that's cool. We can agree to disagree. What I love the most, and I hope that the radial tires don't die off. I do. I'm not running them no more, but I hope it stays there.
Oh, yeah.
What I want to see more,
Agreed.
I want to see exactly what Victor did this weekend. And it takes a special guy that can prep for radials and slicks. I don't care what anybody says. If you talk to every track prep guy, every fucking track prep guy out there across the country is a fucking track prep guy. But I promise you, Wade Rich is above and beyond. There's two guys, in my opinion, that are the very best in this country. One of them I've followed around, and I would literally only go to a race if I knew that guy was prepping on a grudge race because we were running big money, and that's Jimmy Bradshaw. That guy and Wade Rich, I promise you, in my opinion, are the two best guys. They can run radial cars right along with slick tire cars. And if we can run both those programs together, there's no reason why we should lose either program. The problem is we try to run an all-out radial event. And here's what happens half the time. When you first start out with your radial event, there's never enough rubber on the ground. There's never enough rubber on the track. And so that's where those big tire cars come in and get that track prepped for that radial tire. But it also takes that right guy that can prep for the radial and prep for the slick tire and make everybody go fast. And Wade Rich is living proof of that this weekend, of how fast those cars all went on a radial and a slick tire, and they all raced and they all played in the same playground.
And Tyler Crossnow and Jimmy Bradshaw did that at Virginia.
Tyler's good at it. Yeah,
Tyler. I think Tyler and Jimmy worked together. For the shakedown, and that was the first time I experienced that. I was real skeptical with a big tire car of how that was going to work, but they made it work beautifully. And I think that
you've been talking about that for like a year and a half, right,
Yeah.
Mike? I mean, that was your big takeaway from your guys' first time running the shakedown. Was it's like, hey, we're not used to these radial prep tracks, you know, especially with a big tire car. You go run on that, and apparently Tyler, Jimmy, that whole group, Wade, Rich, obviously. I agree with you, Big Country. Chad, you said you had something to say about the track prep.
Yeah, every promoter on earth is doing it wrong. They're all doing it completely wrong, and they're costing themselves money doing it. Or I shouldn't say that. They're missing out on money, because if you take big tire spectators and you take radial racing spectators, they only overlap partially, right?
Yeah,
so all you do is you start your big tire fucking race at 11 o'clock in the morning, and you end that son of a bitch at 7 o'clock at night. And then you start your radial race and you run it until 2 o'clock in the morning. And I 100% guarantee you will make an ass load of money, because you'll have a shit ton more people, that a second wave of spectators will show up at 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock at night and hang out all night long. And I know this to be true because I know one track in the country that's doing that, and they're loving it and they kill it every time. And you know it well because it's XRP. They run multiple events in a day, and because they cater to 2 different groups and they barely overlap, and they make a shit ton of money, and the staff's just there for one day. I'm telling you, if promoters would listen,
I agree.
And I mean, me and Lyle, we wanted to do a race like that. We were planning our own radial race. We were doing all of that, and it just isn't worth dealing with all of the crap. I mean, because otherwise I'd be in.
Check this out. You know me, I don't hold back. So I kind of like, it don't matter. I'm good with it. So that's where me and Donald actually had our falling out. You bring up the shakedown race. I made a post on Facebook because I was so impressed with that race that Tyler and them put on. I was impressed of how fast the Pro Mods went and how fast the RVW cars went, and they were all in the same spot, and nobody ever done it. And your name was even brought up. So Donald, I was in a meeting. I was at office. I was in a meeting, and Donald called me, raising fucking hell me, because I made a post telling Tyler what a great fucking job he did. What a great job, Tyler. The whole crew. You brought two of the baddest cars on the planet together. He called me raising fucking hell, wanted me to take that post down. He didn't want to give them no credit. He said, "You're my friend. Take that fucking post down." Blah. I mean, he was fucking livid. Hey, he fucking blocked me on Facebook because of that fucking race.
I kid you not. Do you know how many people would pay money to get blocked by Donald on Facebook?
Check this out. I said, "Listen, man." I said, I told him, I said, "Quit fucking crying. Be a fucking man." I said, "You and Wes Buck been fucking around for a goddamn year, talking shit about you racing this way. Wait, Wes has been trying to race you. You trying to do it at fucking Georgia." I said, "Wes said he's fucking ready. You always make excuses." I said, "Sometimes it's not always about the money, Donald. Sometimes it's about what the fucking fans want, what the racers want." I said, "You're just fucking mad that Tyler made it fucking happen." And I said, that's the bottom fucking line. And that's what everybody wanted to see. And that's what Tyler did. And they did a great fucking job about it. But that's where
I
Donald,
will tell you, at
Mic
first,
drop.
I was mad, because, and I told Tyler this because that was that was what I wanted to do. Yeah. I had told I had told Donald for 2 years, $100,000, my guys on big tires and bars versus your guys, however you want to bring them. Yeah. However you want to bring them. Yeah,
and I wanted to see it too.
No bars.
And he wouldn't do it. I mean, I actually got a memory popped up just the other day, and I was glad Tyler ended up doing it because it was such a good moment for the sport of drag racing to see those cars run on the same track and run well. Because I think if we would have gotten that done, it'd have been the biggest door slammer race ever that had ever happened. If it would have worked, if we would have gotten that deal done.
Absolutely.
I mean, I had guys lined up. I mean, we would have literally brought the heat to a level. I swear to God,
that would have been the biggest rivalry ever in drag racing.
They'd have quit making those DOT approved things. It'd have been over. It'd have been over.
But do you hear me?
Treads are out of stock.
Do you realize how big of a rivalry that would have been? And had that got off, it would have kept going. If the right people would have done the right thing, it would have been fucking huge for drag racing, man. Huge.
And I still to this day, I hate it because it feels like I'm with you, Big Country. I think radial racing needs to be strong. It's good for our sport. It's good. I love those type of cars. I think that there was a ton of
excitement, and I feel like it brought it kind of like the NPK. It's like a cycle. During the start and middle of that cycle, it was good for the industry. You remember how many companies came in because of that, and how many companies were excited to get on board with that. So you need those things coming through. But I think we're at the end of it now.
Unfortunately, I don't know. I think we'll see X275 hang around for a while and Pro 275. I think. But I think Pro 275 is on a fast track to hell. I really do.
Absolutely.
I mean, those cars are completely out of control, and it's the only thing Radial Tire really has left, in my opinion, that's strong is LDR. Like, if they can keep that class halfway under control, it'd be fantastic. But RVW, they're going to have to, and it sucks because Pro Extreme experienced this. These things happen. And sometimes somebody has to lean in. It's an uncomfortable moment, but they got to run the tape back. They got to hit rewind.
I think they have to, and this is just, because I don't like to see any kind of racing die, but it happens. I think they have to put their energy in LDR They have to listen. X275 used to be the face of radial racing. It really was.
Yep.
And then RVW kind of took over that. But I think they got to put the excitement back in X275, and I think they got to put the excitement back in Ultra Street, and at least keep those guys around. At least that's a race that a guy can run. The common wallet, obviously not the common wallet. You got to put a lot into it, but not so much this high end.
If I'm Donald, I'm taking lights out.
Listen,
making
you're not
the top category.
You're not Donald. Donald's a fucking millionaire. So we'll just stop right there. He's made all his money. But
there you go.
You're absolutely right. That's the smart thing to do. Pro 275 is nothing but RVW cars on a 275. That's all it is. It's going to be the same thing. You just seen them go at 365 or whatever this weekend. I mean, that thing's going to be spun out of control on a little 28-inch tire now. That's really what it is, man. I mean, and it sucks, but at the end of the day, that whole shakedown deal and that's why I was going back to the track prep guys. What Wade Rich did down here this weekend, I don't know if a lot of people really sat there and think about how badass he is, how badass that surface is, how badass it was to have all those badass cars between a big tire car and a radial tire car going down the same surface and getting that done and running the speeds that they ran. That's all you got to give all the God the glory when you talk about those guys, because not everybody can do that. I hear everybody say about how they're a good prep guy, but not everybody's a fucking good prep guy. I can promise you that.
That's a fact, brother. And I guess with that, guys, I want to thank you, Corey, Big Country. Let's give it up for the one and only being here tonight, giving us this straight dirt. Thank you, Corey. We appreciate it a bunch. I'm glad you're coming to PRI.
Yeah,
I guess we'll see you in a couple days.
Yeah, we didn't think you guys were coming.
I didn't think you were coming.
Man, if I had it my way, I wouldn't be. But my wife fucking bought a plane ticket. I got no business being in Indiana. I don't need to fucking fluff nobody's balls, but I think you got
a VIP table right next to ours, I believe.
Yeah,
I think you do have a VIP table next to ours. So,
well, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and not work. Stop fucking hitting me.
It's our anniversary.
My wife said it's our anniversary. So
happy anniversary.
You've got work to do.
Hey, listen. To be honest with you, though, usually I'm at No Guts, No Glories. I'm usually at
for 2 hours.
I'm usually at Baldy's race. And I'm tuning cars, but I had to turn them down this year. But we spent our anniversary at a drag race all the time, just how we're. But you know what? It's like I told everybody, I only got 2 blowjobs once a year. I mean, twice a year. I get one for my birthday and one for Christmas. Well, I missed my birthday, so I'm getting 2 coming at the end of this year. So I'm looking forward to that. But anyways. So yeah, we'll be at PRI. I'm gonna try and leave work at home. I'm going with Dwayne Mills and company. Mills is my peeps. They live all the way in Oklahoma. But man, I really respect their family. They're a hardworking family, honestly. Between them, Tara and Callie, they remind me a lot of me, Melissa, Tyler, and Justin. And they're just out there working and grinding. They worked a drag race just like we do. So they're gonna meet us up there, and we're probably gonna have us a few drinks, kick it back, and. Melissa said we're going to that party. I don't know what party she's talking about.
That's our party.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's our party.
So that's what we're doing. She was being a little mean to me today, and I told her she better stop all that shit or I ain't getting on a plane Wednesday morning. I can tell her that right now.
I bet she'll have the party without you.
Yeah. She'd come hang out.
Yeah. The DI invitation's in her name, not yours, so you don't even need to be there.
It's true.
She literally just came home and she's got like 5 pairs of shoes she's trying to put on me because I buy boots every 2 years. I buy a pair of Red Wings. I wear my work boots out for good. I wear them to work. Boots. And the reason why I tell her is I never know what I'm going to get into. I might have to work. So I got my work boots on, so I'm ready to go.
So you got to get some nice shoes for PRI.
Nice shirts too.
She said I can't wear my white T-shirts.
Oh, you gotta wear
that.
That's on brand. You got to keep it on brand.
You got to keep it on brand.
You know the thing is, whatever direction our drag racing is going, honestly, we can all say what we want to say, but it's really in the promoters' hands. It's really what the promoters are going to do that puts on these races. And if they listen, they listen. If they don't, then they don't. It's going to die off. I mean, at the end of the day, though, I would really love to see what I saw this weekend. Mix the slick tires up with the radial tire cars. I think they help the track. You just got to have a good guy prepping and knows how to get them both down the track. But I honestly believe those pro mods, even though it was hot out there, and I still saw the cars going, it was 80-something, 85, 88 degrees out there. Even on the track, it was 120. They were going down in the middle of the day. I got to say, that's because you had them pro mods out there laying that rubber down. You didn't have a tractor running up and down, up and down, up and down. People don't want to see that shit. Bring the cars in, let the cars put the rubber down.
Agreed 100%. Big Country, enjoy your evening. Happy anniversary. Thank you so much for being here, dude.
Anniversary's the 9th.
Oh, it's 3 days early.
3 days early. Well, happy early anniversary.
Thanks, Phil.
She's coming through. She cuts through nicely on the old mic.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks, Mama Country. We love you guys, and we'll see you in a couple of days.
Okay.
All right, guys. See you.
Good night.
Bye.
I think we're all we may have all leveled up. I talked about this earlier. I think we all leveled up a little bit just experiencing some Big Country. Holy
we did.
shit. Oh my gosh. What a deal. What a deal. Uh-oh. Hey, you're muted, Chad. Chad, you're muted.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
I said that from now on I'm gonna do a couch or some shit, and I'm gonna just do
we all
Wes we should all do it. Yes, laying down. It'll be
can
awesome.
all feel much more relaxed in our poses.
Big Country. I was what in the hell is this thing? I'm like, Jesus, does he have a phone on his belly?
I had 2 or 3 people text me and say, "Hey, that guy's laying down on your show," or whatever. I'm like, "Yeah, that's his.
We can see him too.
Yeah, that's his style.
We can see him too. He can see him too.
Holy
crap,
hey,
guys! I want to
December
thank
9th.
everybody for being a part of this, man. December 9th. Yeah, Mike, you go ahead.
Drag Illustrated After Hours and / Swanstrom anniversary party.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't.
We should rename it.
Hope he doesn't get his present at the club.
Yeah,
JT,
if his booth is right beside us,
seriously.
we're gonna have to keep an eye out. Or just block that off. Or
You
I don't
need to
know.
put some shitty banner up. You need to steal a banner from the show, flip it around backwards, and then hand paint "Happy Anniversary" on it, and just hang it all half-ass over the door of the.
Can you make that happen, T?
I don't know.
And we'll do a checkbox for blowjobs, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Make sure he gets his 2 for the year.
Yeah, because he's running up on a time crunch here.
Yeah, I mean, dude,
I know.
You got 25 days left in the year. You need to get these in.
Yeah.
That was the funniest thing ever. Thanks to everybody for watching along tonight and being a part of this. I hope you've clicked subscribe if you're watching along on YouTube, or clicked follow on Facebook, or wherever you may roam on the internet. It's not my responsibility to follow you around on the interwebs, but I hope you're doing your part, helping us support the sport of drag racing. Chad, are you going to PRI?
Yes,
surely.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there Thursday morning, and then leave Saturday night. So yeah.
And I assume
they can't have PRI without Chad.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think they can have any industry function without Chad Reynolds,
because I have to be there in shorts and flip flops, regardless of the weather, for people to be like, "What the actual fuck are you doing?" And my love of that is always that. Okay, it's 20 degrees outside, and so I was uncomfortable for the block that I walked into this joint. But all you assholes that brought parkas in here are carrying them around all damn day. Who's the smart guy here?
Yeah.
Mike goes shopping,
I got
literally
a full
buys
repertoire
winter clothes just for Indy.
Yeah, he uses it once a year. He looks like the Christmas story kid. But you never know though. When you leave your hotel room, it's like you're sitting downstairs and everybody's like, Uber's 30 minutes away. Hell, we can just walk.
Yeah, exactly.
And then about halfway there, you're going.
I learned
the worst
after a couple times
ever.
You ain't doing this shit to me no more. I'm coming prepared.
And I'm used to cold weather.
It's actually not going to be that cold this year. It's going to be what
are the numbers? Give us the.
I think it's going to rain. I actually think it's going to rain.
Is it?
Oh, Chase Freeman.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
I was gonna say, I know.
You're like you've turned.
I look good though, right there. I do look good, at least.
Yeah, there you go.
Chase.
He's just an avatar.
This is
now.
a fantastic shot of Chad right here.
Hey,
it's
if I
not
was
a
going to
bad
create
shot.
an avatar of myself, it would be 75 pounds lighter. I mean, come on.
Screenshot that. Screenshot that. Next time you need just a headshot of Chad.
I'm gonna.
it right
I'm
now.
absolutely doing that right now, dude. You smart ass. I am fully doing that right now.
Are you coming to the party Thursday night?
If I'm invited, I'm coming.
Hell
Of
yes,
course
you
you're
are.
invited. Okay, so listen, we have a lot to discuss when we get to the
where
show.
is it
Chad.
at this year? Is it at the same place as last year?
Yeah.
Hold on,
Yep.
I'm going to remove him and see if
Envy.
he comes back.
Okay.
Let's see if it's better.
No, he's still an avatar.
Frick, now he's a black box. It's even worse here.
Same. It's at
Here.
the same place. envynightclub.com. Go to dragillustrated.com/tickets, and it'll
Now
take
you're
you
like
right
a
there to
weird-
be able to buy tickets.
Hey, thank you all, DG Classic, Scott Malpass, Chase Freeman, Pure Indie Rock Radio, Kevin Stevenson, Curtis Thomas, Kevin Schaffner, Randy Overman, all you guys, Tigerman or Tigerman 569. Seriously, all of y'all make all the difference in the world. It's your presence, your involvement makes this show fun for all of us. So thank you so much. I appreciate everybody that joined us. Listen to Big Country, Corey Swanstrom storytell a little bit. We got to hear from the one and only Chad Reynolds, as well as my co-host, the one and only JT Murder Tundra Hudson, and my buddy Mike Carpenter. It's been a ton of fun. Thank you guys. I hope to see each and every one of you this week. I mean, we're going. I think I may sleep till like noon tomorrow. Like just
I
coast
leave.
through
I leave
Tuesday.
at
Yeah,
8:30.
JT's got to leave.
I leave
like
at 8:30 in the
What
morning.
time do you leave?
The truck's packed up. I mean, I've got everything. I'm ready to go.
JT's.
Hell, I'm drinking right now. I might as well. Never mind.
Just go.
Never mind. Never mind. New story.
Yeah.
Hey, Motorhouse 77 watching all the way from Brazil. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this. Bill Scribner, I appreciate you guys more than you know. We'll see you Thursday. Now, remember, Mike, if I'm correct, we're going to check in, I think just the three of us, maybe on Wednesday, just to say hey.
On Wednesday, just to say hey. But the full show is Thursday, 11 a.m. Right? No, sorry, 10 a.m. God.
Chase, I'll be there tomorrow afternoon.
Thursday,
Wait
10
for me.
a.m. Wes Buck show this week. So one
Thursday,
day later.
I think we are on the PRI HQ main stage more than anybody. 2 full hours on Thursday morning, 10 to noon. I'm super proud of it. We also have the Drag
10 to
Illustrated.
noon Eastern.
10 to noon Eastern. We have what else do we have going on? We have
Let's run it down. Thursday. Oh, we lost Wes now too. He's an avatar.
Oh wow.
Is it just you, me, and UT? Did we run out of? We ran out of tape. We've got Thursday. We kick it off with the show 10 to 12. Then we've got. We'll all be in the booth really for the afternoon.
Yeah.
Come by and get your all access pass. That basically gets you into the party 1 hour early. The party